we got North and South Sudan now. And the problem that the South is facing, which is by and large darker Christians, is very similar to what the Nigerian Christians are facing, and it's the same problem. Islam. It's Islam. It's the same problem. And you have Boko Haram in Nigeria and all kinds of problems in Sudan. And so I'm glad that you care. But you know, it's interesting. Bill Maher, Volta, do you know who Bill Maher is? Jewish atheist, been a long-standing critic of Christianity for a long time. I remember when the New Atheists were all the rage, and I went to a local theater here in a Phoenix area, and I saw his movie Religulous, which is like a play on words, religious, ridiculous, right? And he's mocking Christians the whole time. He does an interview with Ken Ham. He talks to people who are trying to help men who deal with same-sex attraction, makes fun of them, talks to some truckers for Jesus, talks to people who do like a Holy Land or whatever reenactment they call it. And he's making fun of it the whole way. He includes the old played-out Christ myth stuff where he rolls on the screen and says, here's all these people who are just like Jesus. He includes Mithras in there, not good research. Now, what's my point by saying all that as far as Bill Maher? Bill Maher came out a couple of days ago and said, if you are not aware of what's happening in Nigeria, it means that your news sources, your news feed, it sucks. It's no good. Saying that you're getting biased news. He's saying, why aren't the kids protesting about what's happening to the Christians in Nigeria? So I hear what you're saying, because it sounds like the UN is a very serious authority for you. But what's been the UN's contribution to the situation in North and South Sudan? But what is happening in Nigeria is much more serious than what is happening on a lot of levels in response to what's happening in Israel, in my view, because you have Israel executing a defensive war that was provoked by an attack. The Nigerian Christians did no such thing. I could play a video right now. It is hard to believe it's a real video, where there's these Christians fleeing out of a church building, and they're scattering in all these directions as fast as they can go. And there's machine gunners outside of the church because they knew they were going to flee because they set something up inside. And when they're coming out, they're just mowing them down. They're just... And it's just like... how? They're purposefully doing this while they're at church. And you have to watch this. Well, why would we say that it's approaching a genocide? Why would we say that? 7,000 Nigerian Christians killed in 2025, Watchdog reports, groups that keep track of this type of thing, unfortunately. Let's look at this together, okay? Radical Muslims massacred 7,087 Christian Nigerians throughout the first 7 months of 2025, according to a report from the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law. The watchdog known as Inter-Society is based in southeast Nigeria. Led by criminal researcher Emeka Umegobalasi, the group reported Sunday that an additional 7,800 Christians were kidnapped within the same period. So this is crazy, because we're talking about murder, but we're not even finishing there. Now we got to talk about kidnapping. Almost 8,000 Christians were kidnapped in the past 9 months in Nigeria alone. Statistically, about 30 Christians were killed each day over the last 220 days, and about 35 were kidnapped each day. Christians have long faced violent persecution in the West African country. Global Christian Relief reports that at least 4,000 Christians in Nigeria are killed by extremists each year. Another Christian aid group, Open Doors counted 3,100 killed and 2,830 abducted in Nigeria over 12 months, ending in September 2024. So this is a negative trend that's on the rise in the wrong direction. During the previous year, 4,118 were killed and 3,300 abducted, according to Open Door's most recent report on persecution in the country. So these aren't just made up. This is something that's becoming a greater problem. Inter-Society attributed the recent spike in Christian massacres to the rising number of unchecked jihadist Islamic terror groups. What else? Specifically radical groups of herdsmen and bandits. Nigeria harbors no less than 22 budding or full-grown Islamic terror groups that seek to wipe out the country's estimated 112 Christians, the report said. That is their real goal. Why is it when people convert to Islam, one of the first things they want to do is go kill Christians? In countries where they're allowed to do so. There, I'll give a caveat, My goodness, I hate reading this kind of stuff. I hate even, that video I brought up. I saw that video. I've seen it twice on accident. And I just, what? And then you got this guy. Here, let me make this better. There we go. We fixed it. I flipped around the mirror. Ty Keith says, this is sick. Agree, 100%. C says, those numbers are distressingly bad. Yes, they are. Come on, how? These are our brothers and sisters. D News says, wow, 7,000. Yeah, Truth Defenders, good point. Volta, where'd you go? Come on. Cynthia makes a good point. I believe that there are genocides that are happening, but they are not in the headlines. Look, Israel is not a perfect country. Why do we always have to say that? Because there's no country that's perfect, right? But it's like, there is an unfair lens placed on Israel versus other nations. That's just a fact of the way things are in this world. Jonathan Crocker, God bless Vocab, Malone Street Apologist Ministry. Thank you. Ham Sunshine says, tick-tock down to rock, as Mike Winker would say. Yeah. I Love French Toast says, I got a bone to pick with Vocab. Well, where you been? Come on. Jump up here. Come on. Grizz also says, Vocab, thanks for bringing up these things. It reminds us we need to be praying for our brothers and sisters being persecuted. Amen. And so let's call a couple things to action here. One is pray for persecuted Christians tonight when you go to sleep. In fact, right now. But why not specifically pray for the Christians in Nigeria? I would like to encourage every person who's a believer to do that. Lifting My Cross says, instead of raising hundreds of thousands to expand and update their place of worship, we should be sending everything we can scrape up to Nigeria. Much better idea. Lifting My Cross says, if we join the chat, do we have to stick to subject tonight? Or can I ask Vocab apologetic questions? Yeah, you could do that. I just put things that were on the mind. We may not even get to all those things. I may have to change the title of the show afterwards. Grizz says, can you put the link? Yeah, I will. And by the way, I'm encouraging you guys to subscribe to World Magazine and also to listen to their podcast every day called The World and Everything in It. It is the best news source by far. They don't have all the big bucks like the MSNBC and the CNNs. They don't. That's just how it is. But it's an excellent source of news. There, the link is in there. And they're not as sort of sensationalistic as sometimes some of the conservative outlets can be. They're much more mature and intellectual. Ty Keith says, gives a little thing and just says, keep it up. Thank you for the second super chat. And Leaf also drops a super chat. Hey, Leaf, you're all invited to come in if you want to talk about some of these things. And I want to share with peeps that have no idea. And yes, they do exist. Yes, correct. Hey, Warrior Woman, how you doing? Happy late birthday. But you know what else? What I want to say to people to do is to consider supporting missionaries in Nigeria and some of these relief aid groups that are specifically operating in Nigeria. Voice of the Martyrs, Open Doors, for example. Think about other ways to get involved. Okay, let's continue to take a look here. All right. Radical groups have launched a number of violent attacks against Nigerian residents in recent years. On June 13th this year, up to 200 Christians were reportedly killed in an attack on Yelwata, Nigeria. Armed gang members kidnapped hundreds of central Nigerian students at gunpoint in March 2024. I remember when that happened. Weeks later, over 100 locals were forcibly kidnapped from their homes in northwest Nigeria. And you know, the news, a lot of times when they do report this, they'll say Christians and Muslims skirmish or clash in West Africa. They'll say something like that, as if this is like a both sides thing. You know what I mean? As if this is, hey, there's just these clashes, and no one's really at fault. It's harder to find a news agency that'll say what's really happening. I encourage you to check out these reports. A lot of times you'll notice they try to paint it neutral, and then you'll get these commentators, and when they do comment on it, they'll say something like this. Not every time, but almost every time, it's something like this. This is not really a problem between Islam and Christianity. There's other factors that are going on here. Inter-ethnic tribal stress, for example, and a lack of things going on with the land and in this society. And then this is about property rights. And also, this is more of a political thing because of the economy. They go to all these other things. It's not just what it is, which is Muslims attacking Christians. I see you, French Toast. I'll get you on. Let me just go through this article. Hang out in the green room for a second if you can, please. We got our first smoke room guest. All right. Gunmen attacked and burned over a dozen central Nigerian communities in December 2023, leaving at least 140 people dead. Dozens of worshippers were killed when terrorists attacked the Catholic Church in southwestern Nigeria in June 2022. And you can see these things. A lot of these things have pictures after the fact, or as I posted on my YouTube community post today, I shared some pictures of these churches with blood all over the altar when they go in there. Or you'll see things like just body bags filling the church. It's just tragic. But this is, we can't focus on this. All we got to talk about is Israel and Ukraine, right? Inter-Society further reported that thousands of moderate and unarmed Muslims have been killed or kidnapped by radical insurgents of the same faith. The Muslim-on-Muslim attacks are contained in the country's northern states and fueled by centuries-old ethnic and intertribal rivalries, the report continued. Now, it's interesting, who is the group that persecutes Muslims the most? Muslims. Other Muslims are always the group who persecutes other Muslims the most. And this article contains that fact as well. Ryan Lawson, DJ Motive, says, appreciate the groundwork you and the fellows have been doing lately. God bless you all. Thank you. I'd love to know specifically what you're talking about, but thank you very much. Okay, let's jump over here and see what we can do here with the guests. And your name, at least on the moniker, says, I love French Toast. But I'll call you French Toast unless you tell me otherwise. Go ahead, brother.
My name is Devin.
Hey, Devin, how you doing? Good to meet you.
Hi, good to meet you too, Vocab. I actually, um, I'm not doing this to be unblocked, but I want to, like, I'm a real person and I'm not like a faceless troll or anything like that. But I actually wanted to talk to you, because I asked you a question on Instagram, related to a clip you posted of Charlie Kirk talking about his evangelism. And before, you did respond and you say all I did was post an apologetics clip. The only thing that I was asking you was that if this were another individual who proclaimed Christ, would you have posted it, and things of that matter. You don't gotta unblock me. That's not what I'm here for. I just wanted to actually talk to you.
Okay. Well, I appreciate
But
that. Okay, so let's walk through the things that you want the audience to hear about. It doesn't have to be that clip per se, but about that issue in general. Because you're talking to me, yeah, and we'll talk through it. But what do you also want to say to the audience that you think is most important for them to consider about this? I want to make sure you can speak your piece on the issue.
I don't personally didn't view him as a per se Christian in the sense that I would view you as. I put him in that category of that whole like Christian nationalism stuff. He did, in my opinion, spew a lot of anti-black rhetoric, although he did proclaim, Christ and stuff like that. But I just found it strange that a lot of about apologetics platforms were reposting these clips of him um, talking about Christ and Jesus and salvation and things of that nature. But it was like, well, this was somebody who, sowed division. Wait, let me say this. I'm gonna interrupt what I'm saying. His death was a tragedy, and an atrocity. Nothing to celebrate. Nothing to be that was ridiculous. I'm apolitical, so I don't lean left or right or anything like that. But I just found it strange because I looked at him as someone who sowed division, and I don't, I think that that's not biblical and that's not okay to, especially with a lot of his talking points being divisive towards people of color such as myself.
All right, so you're saying you don't understand why Christian apologists that you saw shared what seemed to be positive clips of Charlie Kirk.
Yes, because the question I specifically asked you was if this were somebody like Fred Phelps, or I don't know if you know who Fred Phelps
No, I
used to
know
be the
Fred Phelps.
pastor
Oh
of.
yeah, I know who Fred Phelps is.
Oh, okay. If this was either Fred Phelps, Louis Farrakhan, or what's his name, Pastor Rob Anderson,
Oh, Stephen
very
Anderson. Yeah, he's out here in
Yes,
Phoenix.
I'm
Yep,
sorry.
yep.
Yeah. Would these same Christian apologists have posted positive clips of said individual?
Well, I guess probably there's a lot of context there. For example, I could see a lot of apologists I know share clips of, say, Farrakhan. If Farrakhan was assassinated by someone who was opposed to his ideology in a public setting like that, I could see probably a lot of people in the apologetics community, at least in one segment of it, probably sharing some positive clips saying, well, I didn't always agree with Farrakhan, but look at this. For example, there's a couple years ago where the Christian Post, I think, even carried an article where Farrakhan indicated some very positive things about Jesus, but if you listen to the whole thing, he was spewing the same type of NOI stuff. So to that point, I would say I don't agree with the equivalency. So the answer is, if one of those were assassinated, I definitely wouldn't celebrate. I would call out the negative thing first of all. I wouldn't say, oh, well, this is the time to talk about all their screw-ups or something like that. I definitely wouldn't do that first of all. Or I would stay silent, but I definitely would not say, oh, well, this should have happened or anything like that. But I would draw a false equivalency. So I don't view Fred Phelps like Charlie Kirk. To me, I have a little bit trouble understanding why you would see Charlie Kirk in the same light as a Fred Phelps or a Farrakhan.
No, 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 no. Not those individuals specifically, but I'm pointing to the fact that they are controversial. So, for instance, the Black Hebrew Israelites don't like you. So, God forbid, but if something were to happen to you, Vocab, they would immediately post like, "Oh, that was the Most High," and
Oh
all of
yeah,
their,
yeah.
rhetoric, all that foolishness, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, the Christian apologetics community, we don't view you in a sense of being controversial in terms of, well, you said things concerning women of color, you said things concerning black men of color. So that's what I mean in that sense. I don't mean literally Farrakhan himself or, stuff like that. Like, I don't mean I mean people who are controversial, but I mentioned Fred Phelps and Anderson because those are Christian. Well, you know.
Right. When I think about what Steven Anderson, what Fred Phelps talks about, and the way they interact with people, I don't see the same thing at all, basically. So for me, it's not really when I'm thinking about like the public witness of Charlie Kirk, I'm not thinking of it in terms of like I guess for lack of a better word, a racial issue. I'm thinking about giving defense for the gospel, stuff that I would say defending the resurrection, stuff that I would say defending the reliability of Scripture, stuff that I would say regarding the existence of God, evangelistic appeals that I would make too. I never, hear Fred Phelps or Steven Anderson say those kinds of things. Maybe they do somewhere, but I don't hear those things. And definitely not Farrakhan, of course. And so that's why I shared the Apologetics clip, because to be honest, I didn't know the Apologetics content existed from Charlie Kirk. So maybe because it's younger or something like that, maybe because he was so kind of political, I never really followed or got into a lot of Charlie Kirk stuff personally. I'm not saying I hated him, but the couple clips I did see prior to his death made me think, I don't know about this guy. Because the clips I did see made me think like, man, I don't know. This is kind of hard-edge politics. This isn't my thing. Then after he died, I started seeing a bunch of apologetic stuff because I started saying, wait, Frank Turek is involved with this? I know Frank. Wait a minute. He's citing this guy and citing this source? Wait, he did something with so-and-so? And all of a sudden I started not just seeing, but I was like looking for this because I heard people talking about it and I didn't really know it existed. So to me, that's what I was thinking about. And then I also was thinking about the reason for the death. The reason for the death wasn't, he wasn't killed by, the new Black Panther Party, someone saying, I'm going to kill you because you're racist or something like that. He was murdered by somebody who was angered at his stand he took against transgenderism and homosexuality. So to me, these are the issues that I think we should frame it in, to be honest. I felt like the conversation got diverted to other things by folks that I love and respect, and I didn't see the conversation in the same light. So to me, I'm thinking about the apologetic issues, Devin. I'm thinking about the evangelistic appeals, and I'm thinking about their stated reason for the assassin's motive. Those are things that I think are front and center. And lastly, I'll say, from what I was able to hear and see and study, Charlie Kirk basically got better as far as his apologetics and evangelism as he went on. Younger Charlie Kirk was more political, less evangelistic. Later, Charlie Kirk started incorporating more and more into it. And that's why Frank Turek was there when he was assassinated, because he said, why don't you come along, Frank? So Frank was even starting to do some of the tours. Now, I don't agree with everything Frank Turek ever says or does either. That's not the point. The point is apologetics was literally being right. It was like right beside what he was starting to do. And to me, that was a positive thing, because that at college campuses, I think, is a helpful thing. And unfortunately, in 2025, a lot of basic Christian claims have now become political. What I mean by that is this. 30 years ago, Devin, it wasn't really very political for me to say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and don't have to go any further than that. Now that's a political statement now. So you have metaphysical claims being made by leftists and people that call themselves progressive that before they weren't making at the level in the mainstream that directly contradict Christian truth claims versus just what should we have tariffs? What should the tax rate be? Those are different issues. Those are not straight line issues. Those are what I would call jagged issues, meaning they're not as clear from Scripture. When you say in Genesis 1, God says, made them male and female, and the society says, nuh-uh, and then Charlie Kirk is murdered by someone who's upset about that, that's what I'm seeing. So does that help somewhat? I want to make sure you're able to speak your piece, but that's what's front and center of in my mind in regards to those things, because that seems like that's where the center of the issues were. Not about do you disagree with what he said about this over here or this over there.
Yeah, I hear and understand your perspective on it and whatnot, but that was really my thing. I just, wanted to just to actually speak with you and not. I'm not a faceless account, so
Well,
I'm
look.
I'm done. I don't have any other.
Well, can I ask you
I
this,
just wanted to speak
Devin?
with you.
I appreciate you calling. This is what we need more. First of all, people talking and agreeing. I think I accidentally, saw the video of the neck shot with the blood, and that affected me.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was horrendous.
when I looked into it, and then I saw what people were saying, that it was I just couldn't understand why people thought that was the time to say why they basically hated Charlie Kirk type of thing. It seemed, I'm not saying that your death sanitizes your life, but it seemed like a strange turn of this is what we need to talk about. Here's what I would say. Do you think, Devin, that there's some things that Charlie Kirk said in relationship to, say, black community issues or cultural issues and those kinds of things don't you think some of those issues are things that there are other Black Americans who say the same or similar things?
I do. I don't know if you're familiar with that terminology, but blacks who spit anti-black rhetoric are called coons
Yeah,
and
rhymes with moon.
sambos.
I'm very familiar. And
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that.
no,
If
no,
that
no.
give you a
I don't mind.
strike,
It's not the end of the world.
oh,
It's not the end of the world. You can say what you want to say.
no,
I'm
no,
just saying
no.
the way I always say it is I usually say they're called rhymes with moon. Yes, they are, and that's what I want to talk to you about. Devin, isn't it possible that you can have a different view from another person on the issue without being a sellout? Isn't it possible there are other reasons why you hold the perspective or maybe say what you say about the issue? What I'm concerned about is this bifurcation of this. If you hold this view about this cultural issue, you're either a sellout or you're a racist. There have got to be more issues. It's almost like people that are aligning themselves with progressives or progressive adjacent say, here's your only options. You can't have any good reason for why you think this. You're either a rhymes with moon or you're a racist. The communities in America are not monolithic, black, white, or brown, or name any people group. I find it troubling that that's the automatic response. So, for example, if Charlie Kirk says something, then it's because he's a white supremacist. But if a black person says the same thing he said, then the community says, you're a rhymes with moon. Aren't there other potential options? Can't people have good reasons? Now, I don't mean something like some guy like David Duke coming on and saying we need to ship everyone back to Africa or some crazy thing like that. I'm talking about sort of perspectives within the pale. What do you think, Devin? Aren't there other options besides people being a sellout or being a white supremacist?
I do, but I do think it has to deal with who it is coming from because of the social group that they are, even if you're unfortunately attached to, or I don't want to say social group. Um, Candace Owens has her opinions because she's Candace Owens, and not Candace Owens has her opinions because she's black and hates her own people. Like, I would not put that together and say, oh, she must hate her own people because she has these views and whatnot. And I do agree that it's either or. Like, 100%. I don't think I would be a rhymes with moon if I sit here and agree. I, Devin, do agree that there is an issue with black on black violence. But I also agree that there is an issue with white on white violence, Chinese on Chinese violence, Arabic on Arabic violence. But it just seems that a lot of the people that are in the politisphere that claim Christianity, they harp on this whole thing. I just heard, I don't know if you're familiar, there was a recent pastor of a large church that equated the black community with the Cretans. I guess that's somebody from the
Yeah,
Bible. I don't.
yeah. You're talking. I think you're talking about the Ogden Boys. So I've done a show on these guys. This is what I sometimes refer to as Christian nationalism 2.0. So I've done several shows banging on that kind of Christian nationalism, where they do that, and basically they use that as a pass to make derogatory and what I think can properly be categorized as racist statements against black folks specifically. They're not a big fan of Jews either, the Ogden pastors. So these aren't huge churches, but they do have a social media presence that is prominent, especially with some sectors of younger men, unfortunately. I've done a number of shows on this issue. So in regards to Christian nationalism, I think that a lot of people have fallen prey to the idea that I think the news media has given, that if you can be described as a Christian nationalist, it equals white supremacist. So I wanted to watch some clips of this from Charlie Kirk himself. He said, I don't call myself that. If you mean I'm a Christian and I'm a nationalist, then I guess you could say that, but that's not the term I use. But then the news media puts that on you as a bogeyman that becomes code word for white supremacist. I don't think that's playing fair, because I'm a Christianist, and by certain definitions I could be a nationalist, depending on what you mean by that. I wouldn't want to call myself a Christian nationalist because I see, like, for example, the book, The Case for Christian Nationalism, That guy is horrible. Mr. Wolf, I think his Twitter feed's awful. The book has implicit things that become more explicit by his Twitter feed. I haven't done in-depth criticism, but I've done some criticism of him. This is Stephen Wolf I'm talking about. So to me, the whole Christian nationalist thing is tainted by that. But we got to let people define themselves. When I hear Charlie Kirk himself, he's not saying anything like America is only for this group of people and not for that group of people in regards to ethnicity. Some of the Christian Nationalist 2.0 people do say stuff like that. So to me, I'm careful just because the media puts the label Christian nationalist. It's like, hold on, what is this? How did he describe himself? I didn't see that from him. I didn't see that from him in regards to this idea of like, well, it's only for certain people. Now, Devin, there's a lot of stuff Charlie Kirk said in regards to these issues that I would not ever want to personally say myself or that I do not agree with. However, that's the case with a lot of people about a lot of things. And I just feel like we got to be able to accept a certain level of, I don't agree with everyone on these issues, but when you look at the main trajectory, I think that's important to consider. And here's the other thing. I find people sharing the John Howard Wesley clip while saying to me Charlie Kirk is absolutely not a Christian, an interesting conundrum. Do you know why? Have you seen the John Howard Wesley clip, brother? Have you seen that?
He is a very big heretic in the way. I know Christian apologists hate this. Even some of my favorite apologists hate saying this. The black church, Howard John Wesley, is a heretic, and I'm very familiar with him.
Okay, so here's the trouble, though. You had people that would be conservative in their theology. They would be solid in their theology, it would seem, who were sharing that clip. Now, I'm not telling them they can't share the clip. I don't agree with what he said, but okay. But here's what's interesting. You can overlook John Howard Wesley's denial of inerrancy, his denial of the exclusivity of Christ, his denial of the fact that homosexuality is a sin. We can overlook all that and share something we think is good, he said, but we can't allow someone like a Charlie Kirk the same charity. That to me seems like a large measure of hypocrisy. I don't agree with what Wesley said. However, if you're going to share that and say, well, I don't hold to his theology, but this right here is good, but people on the other side of the issue, they can't do the same thing. They can't share the Charlie Kirk clip because of how you feel about his other stuff. And then I start to say, well, wait a minute, what is more important? Because Charlie Kirk affirms the orthodoxy, Wesley doesn't. It's like, well, what is our priority here? So to me, that's where I don't know if I want people to be able to see. We all need to be better at seeing our blind spots, and we all have them. But if we're just yelling at each other and calling each other names, which has happened with this a little bit, then we're not going to be able to help each other see our blind spots.
Okay. Well, I don't want to keep up your time. That's all I just wanted to talk to you. So.
All right. Well, I'll look for you. And we can talk again on Instagram. How about that? I appreciate you calling. All right. God bless. And thank you for talking through the issues, Mr. Devin. Hope to get you back sometime. Okay, we have lifting my cross on. You muted yourself. Let's unmute yourself and hear what you got to say. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hey. So
I don't know if you can be a little louder. You're a little muted, a little louder. Sounds like you're under your blanket late at night, you know?
Yeah, 1 second. 1 second. Let me move into a quieter room.
Let's get some clarity here. If we can.
Is that better, brother?
I got you up all the way. I'll try to turn you up. I'll see if I can turn you up any more, but go ahead. I'm listening. We'll see if I can hear you.
Can you hear me now, brother?
That's better, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I was in a room with a bunch of fans on. So I've been wanting to get in touch with you for a while, Vocab. Reason being, I have some questions on Romans 9. I was really hoping that you could clear up for me.
Questions on Romans 9. I'll do my best.
I'm a huge fan of you and God Logic defending the faith against the Hebrew Israelites. and I've really spent a lot of time the past 2 years trying to also defend it. Nowhere near as good as you or God Logic, Avery. But in Romans 9, I've really been trying to spend a lot of time on why Paul quoted Hosea in 25 and 26. And I recently came across a video of some Jewish Messianic Christians, and they said in the Talmud that there's some commentary from the Talmud that it was understood that um, the commentary of Hosea 2 and 1 was the thought that even though God was calling northern Israel not his people, the thought was that they were going to go into Babylon and make jealous the Gentiles, and the Gentiles would come to the faith of Yahweh through that. And I was wondering if you had any insight on that, or what your opinion was on his quoting Hosea. Highly respect you and Avery, and just really been wanting a long time to be able to talk to you about this. And I appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate that too. All right, so let me put Romans 9 on the screen here if I can. Just a second here. Yeah, go ahead. If you could read it, that would help. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So this is Romans 9, verse 24, and the NIV. Even us, whom he also called, not only from the Jews, but also from the Gentiles. As he says in Hosea, I will call them my people, who are not my people, and I will call her my loved one, who is not my loved one. And in the very place where it was said to them, you are not my people, there they will be called children of the living God.
Okay, so as Hosea also says in Hosea, I will call those who are not my people, and her who is not beloved, beloved. And it shall be that in the place where it said to them, you are not my people, there shall be called sons of the living God. So here's the original context, going back to Hosea. Hosea 1:10 says, yet the number of the sons of Israel will be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. It will be in that place where it is said to them, you are not my people. It will be said to them, you are the sons of the living God. And the sons of Judah and the sons of Israel will be gathered together, and they will set for themselves one head, and they will go up from the land and will be great from the day of Jezreel. All right. I'm going to show a few things here. I don't know if everyone can see this, but I got it on the screen to see. Okay, so a few things that are interesting. This is a little chart here, in 25 and 26. You have a relationship here where God calls Jews, God calls Gentiles. This is spoken of in verse 24. And then Paul gives an OT confirmation of God's call of Gentiles and an OT confirmation of God's call of Jews. So you see verse 24, even us whom he also called not from among Gentiles only, but also from the Gentiles. So there you have Paul saying God calls Jew and Gentile. And then you have 25 and 26, the example of God's call of the Gentiles. And in verse 27 to 29, the example of God calling the Jews. So let me show that here.
Right.
This is Romans 9:27. Isaiah cries out concerning Israel, though the number of the sons of... You see what I'm saying? So you see how one is in relationship to God calling Jews, and the other one is in relationship to God calling Gentiles. So Paul is basically proving his point for both groups, basically. Paul's OT support, this is Moo brought this out, Douglas Moo. I like what he says on Romans. Douglas Moo brought out the
Moo commentary.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one, I thought. He brings out the point that this comes from the book of Hosea, as you mentioned already. And this is not the first time he uses Hosea, and it's from the Septuagint, but he does change the sequence of the verses. And this is interesting. Reverses the order of the two clauses he cites and uses different wording. That's interesting. And so this is an interpretive choice for him to do this, right? So you have the wording here in Hosea 2:23, which is, I will have pity on not pitied, and I will say to not my people, you are my people, and he shall say, you are my God. And then Paul says, I will call that which is not my people, and that which I have not loved, my beloved. So you see that basically these quotations show the way it's to be understood. The way that it's to be understood. And Paul is saying, look, you could think of the Gentiles as not my people, but God is saying that they are his people. And he's using back there because it's like all prophecy and all of this stuff points ultimately to the church, not just to literal physical Israel. Now, that is going to be a debatable point. Not everyone is going to agree with that. But I would say that it's the people of Christ ultimately that Paul is pointing to, that it says this can apply to them too, Jew and Gentile alike. Let me read. Some people will say, well, look, it looks like he's just, messing around with the Bible. Now, it comes from the Old Testament, the kids' names, right? Lo Rum Hama, not pitied, and Lo Amin, not my people. These are names given to Isaiah's children that basically it's like what God wanted. But then they're shown mercy again. And what do you have here? Well, if Hosea includes Gentiles in the prophecy, there's no problem. But that may not be the answer. And so it looks like this. Now, this is the section I want to read here. Paul may imply an analogy. God's calling of Gentiles operates on the same principle as God's promised renewal of the 10 northern tribes. But Paul requires more than analogy to establish from Scripture justification for God's calling of Gentiles to be his people. Therefore, we must conclude that this text reflects a hermeneutical supposition for which we find evidence elsewhere in Paul and in the New Testament, that OT predictions of a renewed Israel find their fulfillment in the church. Moreover, Paul's use of these texts may further his effort to break down the boundaries between Jews and other people that were so basic in Jewish thinking. Now, that is not going to be agreed with by everybody. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to say that's replacement theology or that's supersessionism. They'll say something like that. But that is what I was saying in my own words earlier, and that's what he says. So to me, Paul is showing how these ideas of the renewal of Israel ultimately point to God's people, as in the church. But, I mean, what are your thoughts on the matter so far? I didn't fully understand what you're saying about the rabbis mentioning something. I didn't fully understand what you're saying by that.
Yeah. I would probably have to just send you the link, but it was a YouTube video I found of it's a channel of two Messianic Christians, and they just break down the scripture, the New Testament, and whenever they broke down the Romans 9:25 and 26, there were references to Hosea 1 and 2. What they said was, in the Talmud, there is a rabbi that his commentary said that it was understood that the northern Israel being cut off and God divorcing them from the old covenant, that it was understood that by doing that, it was known that they would go and plant seeds in Babylon and people would see that, these Jewish people who worship the one almighty Yahweh came, and they would actually, be basically spreading not the gospel, but spreading the word of Yahweh by going. I'm sorry, it wouldn't be Babylon; it would be Assyria for northern Israel. But they would be going and basically creating proselytes by talking to the other prisoners in Assyria who were being captured, and through that they would bring proselytes into the Jewish faith. And I've read Romans 9 hundreds of times at this point, just breaking it down verse by verse to truly understand it. And that kind of makes sense. And I just wasn't sure if maybe you have ever heard of it, because one thing that it's brought up a lot as a defense to you and Avery whenever you get to Romans 9 is when Paul says, so then all Israel will be saved. Well, what makes sense to me in the context is in the very beginning of Romans 9, when Paul's talking about his anguish and emotional heartbreak over his brethren being cut off from Christ, what he's doing is he's introducing the thought that the promise of God to Abraham might not be able to be accomplished because so many Israelites are generally, the word Jews, I always say Israelites just because of talking with Hebrew Israelites so much you have to decipher one or the other.
Right.
because so many Israelites had denied Christ, they were actually cut off from the olive tree, from their branches were cut off. And as we know, the Gentile wild branches were grafted in. So the massive multitude of Christians that have been grafted in through their faith is what brings the promise of Israel being like the grains of sand on the seashore. You know, like it all makes sense once you see it in that nature. That if it was just Israelites, it doesn't really seem like in Zechariah, I believe 10, he says that
Well,
the Israelites will.
well, hold
I'm
on.
sorry.
Yeah, no, Zechariah 10. That's cool. If we could, because I don't want. I got another guy after you, so I want to try not to go too far afield.
If you give me your email or something, I could get out and we could talk later. I've just been wanting to talk to you for years. I like what you and Avery do, and I'm really into. This made me study the Bible so much harder.
Oh, praise
Just
God.
being.
Yeah, it's just vocab Malone at Gmail. Vocab Malone at Gmail. I
Yes, sir.
feel like even if a person doesn't agree that that the understanding that, for example, I shared from Douglas Moo and that I would hold to, that prophecies of a future Israel new or ultimately prophecies of the church, if a person doesn't hold to that, and I understand why they might feel that way, I think they could at least get with this, just like where you have the fact that God gave stunning grace to Israel in the Old Testament. He showed mercy to the undeserving in the Old Testament. Now, none of us can presume on God's grace, and that's why you can't assume, well, I'm a certain ethnicity, so I'm good. Anyone that comes to salvation must understand that God is showing undeserved mercy to those who are not his people, because no one is born again. And that's why Jesus told Nicodemus, you must be born again to see the kingdom of God. He's talking to a son
Yes,
of
and
Israel.
Nicodemus was confused.
Yeah, and so when we see this here, they could at least understand, okay, God gave mercy to Israel in the Old Testament. At the very least, Paul is saying, just like that, he is now also giving mercy to the Gentiles, those who were literally, in a certain manner speaking, all of these things you got to define as you go along, not as people who are now called the sons of the living God. Now Gentiles are called to salvation in mass. This is calling a sinful people to themselves, just as he showed grace and mercy to Israel in the time afore. Now, obviously, the gospel is for all, and that's the whole point of Paul, saying it's Jew and Gentile alike, and then he defends it from the Old Testament. Some people have had a problem, though, with the way he uses Hosea, and I think we can talk through that. A lot of it does depend on your ecclesiology and maybe even your eschatology. But I think you had some good things to say about it, and I think Romans 9 through 11 is a passage that Christians are going to be talking about for a long time. And
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate your perspective on it. And thanks for calling in.
I'll be emailing you. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate the time.
All right,
God
God
bless you, man. Keep
bless.
up the hard work.
I appreciate that. Have a beautiful day. All right, we got Leif of a Vine Eternal. Let me bring on this brother here. And I know some people had some different comments about the conversation just now, but sometimes if I got somebody on, I want to make sure I kind of put them on first, before I get the person, the comments is what I'm trying to say here. Oops, wrong thing. Hold on, just give me a second and I'll get you. That's also the wrong thing. Okay, now I'm going to get you there. Okay, assign guest one, and then get this out of the way. Okay, let's see here. Assign guest. Let's go with guest two. That should work. Okay, now I got you. My bad there. All right, how you doing, Leif? Unmute yourself, my brother.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you been, man?
Not too bad. How about yourself? What you been up to? It's been like a month and a half since you last went live.
Yeah, I have been dropping videos regularly, a lot of street videos of me and the Hebrew Israelites and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what it basically is. It's multiple things in life, and I told my Patreon people this, so they kind of know what's going on. The one big main thing is that I'm taking New Testament Greek at a more intensive level, because I've taken Greek about 10 years ago, but it was mainly to learn how to use the tools to be able to do things in the Greek. This is different. This is more to be able to do some basic translation and reading and stuff. And it requires almost every second I'm not at work or working on the video that I'm going to put out that week, I'm sitting there studying stuff. And so I'm like having to, let me show you, like, here's one of the books. It doesn't look like much, but man, every chapter of this is just filled with all this stuff you got to do. Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. And worst of all, you have to memorize all these declension charts and these verb forms. And
yeah, I'm still on the alphabet.
Yeah, they just don't want to stick in my head. They don't want to stick in my head. And I feel like I need to go get my brain checked out because I'm having so much difficulty having these forms stick in there. So I mean, I've gotten different tools to try to help myself. So I got the little master chart, and it's got all the stuff. But the thing is, looking at this is one thing, but then you got to go and you got a quiz, and the quiz is almost like it's like a test. It's not just a regular quiz because they just give you a blank piece of paper basically with boxes, and you have to fill in all the things. And what it's supposed to teach you is when you see these morphological forms in the Greek text, that means the shape of the word basically. You're supposed to know what verbal aspect it is. You have to parse it. You're supposed to know all these things just by looking at the tail end and the front end of these words. That means you have to know the stem. Then from this, you're supposed to know the gender. You're supposed to know the number. You're supposed to know the tense, the voice, and the mood, all from just looking at this. And it requires tons of information. And in Greek, one word can actually be a 3 or 4 letter sentence. You can have one word. For example, you can have like, let me try to give an example of one thing where you look at it. Okay, here we go. This is Eluon. You can just Eluon. And what does Eluon mean? It means I was loosing. It's just one thing in Greek, epsilon lambda, upsilon omicron nu. That word right there with the accents on it means I was loosing, which is the imperfect active indicative. And you have to be able to look at every single thing in the Greek New Testament and know all of them. And it's just like, it seems inhuman. I don't know how these classmates of mine, they seem to be doing way better off than I am. I mean, I could see myself having to take this class again. Like every second when I'm at work, man. Like literally,
I mean, if you do the nerd voice, it helps. Present active indicative.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking for any trick I can, to like memorize this stuff. And so, here's the future passive indicative. This word, this alone, right? This alone. Let me see how to get this. Luo-esami. That one word means I will be loosed. And you have to write that plus all the other forms over and over again to try to memorize it. And that's just one thing. That's just one thing. You have to remember all the future passive indicative forms, and then they give you a test and they say, hey, also do the future active indicative, and also do, and you go like, what? And the future middle indicative. So the main reason why I haven't been going live as much is every time I want to, I'm like, I'm gonna fail this Greek quiz. I gotta go look at this Greek, and I'm putting all this effort into it, and I'm still getting barely grades to get by, and I haven't even included the vocabulary you got to learn. And so I got all these cards, and this is half the box. I mean, this is less than half of the box. This is like barely 10% of the box, and you have to know all of these plus the rest of the box. And every time you get vocab, it's cumulative, meaning you have to know all the vocab up to that point. So I'm not cut out for languages. It's not something that comes like natural or easy. It makes my brain hurt. And
so vocab, Malone struggles with the vocab? I mean...
funny you said that. The vocab is actually the easiest thing out of all Greek. If it was just remembering Greek, if that's all I had to do, You know, if that's all I had to do and go, agape, what's that? Oh, that's easy. Love. The word gay, what's that? Oh, that's earth. That's easy. The word zoe, oh, that's easy. Life. The word phone, what's that? Oh, that's voice or sound. Aletheia, what's that? Oh, that's truth. Hamartia, oh, what's that? That's sin. Basileia, what's that? That's kingdom. Those are easy. But it's not just vocab quiz. The vocab is like this tiny little part. And then they say, remember all these declensions. You have to remember the singular form, the plural form. Then after you do the declensions, and this is literally every single week, after you do the declensions, what else do you got to know besides the vocab? Oh, here's a sentence or two or three or four for you to translate. Oh, and here's a word for you to parse. And, oh, by the way, if you could do this in 15 minutes, maybe 10, that'd be great. And then you get the midterm, and it's cumulative of all this stuff, and I'm just like, I don't think I'm going to pass. So the vocab is actually my favorite part of Greek. That I wish it was just know the vocab, but it's not. It's pronunciation. It's everything else. And so that is the main reason why I haven't been going live as much. The other, frankly, is I just don't have as much support as I used to. And so I've had to basically double the amount of hours I work at my bivocational job. So between almost doubling my hours at my job and memorizing Greek, it's like the time is much smaller than it used to be. So I'd like it to change in the future. The thing is, I plan on taking Greek 2 and Hebrew 1 and Hebrew 2. So that's still going to be there. But the real issue is the amount of support with work. That's the real thing. But anyways, so you ask how I'm doing. I'm tripping out. That's what's going on. And it goes all the way to the end of the year. It just never lets up. It goes all, and then when you get into Greek 2, you're supposed to remember everything you learned in Greek 1, which to me, it seems like silly. But then I see some of these other guys in the class, and they seem to be having no problem with it. So I'm like, oh, well, I guess it's humanly possible, but I don't. Is everyone cheating? But it seems like they're not cheating, because when they were in class, they're interpreting these things like this quick, and I'm like, whoa, slow down. I'm not sure what we even just said here. So it's no joke, man, but there's a lot of smart people in this class, and that's one good thing about learning. It will humble you. You know, you try to get all smart, and then you do this in a room of professionals who are like really bright people. You're like, oh, let me just take myself down several notches. You know, so I find it. So I like it overall, but I'm losing my mind, bro, with this Greek. The first week is like, oh, remember the alphabet and plus these forms of ego. You know, it's like, you don't just get to do the alphabet the first week. Oh, and here's the vocab. You're like, oh, this is all week 1, and then it just gets worse from there. It's like, oh, what is this? What is this? Now, I've learned a lot. Even if I failed the class, I would have learned a lot. The thing is, I probably learned about half of what I'm supposed to. That's what I'm feeling, you know. But that's what's going on, man. So I have learned a lot, though. Like, I want to do a show about some of this stuff, because I think there's a lot you learn in the process that actually would be really helpful for people to hear about, and not just teaching.
Not
Greek,
to mention
but,
a really good way to learn is to explain what you're learning to other people.
Yeah,
because it makes it forces you to be in a place where you know what you're talking about. You know.
Yeah, and that's true, and that helps with the grammar rules, but it doesn't help as much with the memorization, because the memorization is basically rote memorization. And then they're like, oh, no, we have this song for you. And you listen to the song, you're like, that song's not going to help me. What is that? The only song that ever helped me was doing the alphabet to the tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I was like, okay, that one kind of works. The rest of these little songs they make are like, that ain't helping nobody, you know? You're not going to memorize it from that song. You know, it's just like moo, and you're just like, what do you even, it's just, you can't memorize I don't know how people could legitimately remember like these case endings with a song. Hasdrubal says, vocab is dusting ideologies without Greek. Well, so, you know, it's funny you say that. So as I mentioned, I have taken Greek at a formal level already, but first of all, it was 10 years ago. And second of all, the goal of the class that I took 10 years ago was to design primarily to help you learn how to use tools, which is a very important step, to learn how to use the tools for Greek exploration. But it was this is a much more intense level of Greek than that. So I usually had more Greek access than most, not all, but most of my opponents, because most of them don't know any of it. So it's stepping up now, but I'm still not going to go around claiming to be an expert. When people claim to be experts in languages, you realize, like, bro, like, one good thing about this too, Leif, is you're able to, like, detect phonies a lot quicker. You know, you can detect phony, because there's a lot of people that will go around saying they know this or know that, and you're like, man, I just know basic level, and you don't know that. You know,
you did 1 week of Duolingo.
Yeah, a lot of these folks, to be honest, man, they'll say, we know the Greek, and then now I don't mean professional Christian educators. I'm talking about like a lot of the cultists mainly. And then when you ask them what they mean, and when you explore, what they mean is they go on Blue Letter Bible and know how to click the buttons. And like, you don't, that doesn't mean you know Greek. Like,
and even in interfaith conversations, when I see Christians dialogue with, you know, Catholics and Orthodox, oftentimes I'll hear, and I'm not saying this is unique to Catholics and Orthodox, but I'll hear people in these conversations say, well, actually, if you look at Strong's Concordance and they're dissecting a word, it's like,
yeah, I mean, Strong's is like
anyone can go on Bible Hub.
Yes, I mean, I think Christians at the very least should know how to use something like a Strong's. Now, there's newer concordances that are probably better, but Strong's is the most popular historically in the past. Whatever. Like, to me, every basic Christian should know that. Like, but that's really, when someone is leaning on that, you're like, okay, it's fine you're doing that, but don't act like that means you know Greek. Like, just don't say that. There's so many levels to this conversation. First of all, as somebody mentioned, let me see, because there's a couple people who know a little bit about this in the live chat, I can tell. Let me see here. Someone mentioned, Lawful Good mentions this is common Greek, not even high formal literary Greek. So that's exactly true. When you learn biblical Greek, you're learning Koine Greek, which is like the vulgar Greek, which is the common Greek, which is what the New Testament was written in, that. And that's exactly right. So learning Koine Greek. But you're not just learning Koine Greek, which is easier than classical Greek. You're also doing what? You're also only learning a certain amount of words, because you only have to learn the words that appear in the Bible. Now, that sounds easy. You're not learning the word bathroom, because the word bathroom is not in the Bible. Shout out to Titus. How you doing? Hey, you want to come on and give your opinion about this? We did talk a little bit about Charlie Kirk earlier, and we did talk about some things related to Romans 9 earlier, and I forgot what else we talked about earlier, but now we ended up talking about me taking a seminary Greek, whatever. So you have to learn the words that appear in the Bible, and that's nice. But then even within the Bible, even though it's, quote, just Koine Greek, it is still an ancient language. It's an ancient language, and it's not in the same script. Some of the letters look the same. You know, A, lowercase, does look like alpha. B, kind of, the lowercase kind of looks like our uppercase, beta, you know, but they don't all. For example, new looks like a V in English, but it makes the new sound, the N sound. But if you're looking at it and don't know, you're like, oh, there's a V. So it's and then there's the squiggly lines. That one of them looks like a snake on top of a hamburger, like some of the way you have to write these letters. And then you realize, whoa, even basic Greek is still hard Greek, because Greek's this very subtle language. And John becomes your best friend, because you're like, thank you, John, for trying to write with the same vocab words again and again. I really appreciate that. John is like your best friend in the Bible in New Testament Greek, because it feels like you're in this overwhelming land. And John comes along and he's like, let me hold your hand. I know you're not that great at reading this. I'm going to use a lot of the same vocabulary words in relatively simple sentence construction, and this is going to help you. And you're like, yes, thank you so much, John. You read the epistles of John, especially 1 John, and you read the Gospel of John. I'm not saying it's easy, but it feels doable. Revelation's a little bit different, because Revelation has weird stuff going on. It almost seems like he was scribbling stuff down. But then when you try to look at Hebrews or Luke, parts of Acts, you're like, what's going on here? Like, some of the things you can't even recognize, even though you recognize in the nub of the word, you know the basic form of the word. You can see the nub of it. But Luke has put so much stuff on the front and on the back end to make the word say exactly what it wants to say, that unless you know all these details, it becomes unrecognizable, even if you do know the root form of the word, which is the lexical form of the word. Because Greek not only can add suffixes in its inflections, but it can add prefixes. There's something called augmenting. And they throw stuff on the front, like an epsilon, and now it means something else. And you're like, so you have to know where the epsilon comes on, and you have to know where they take off the word and what they put on, and you have to be all doing all this at once. It's like, so it's very overwhelming. And people that can sight read Greek and then translate it in real time, you develop a new respect for them. It's one thing to read it out loud and say, I know this word, I know that word. He's probably saying this. Versus people that just read it out loud and they're translating it on the spot in their brain and then verbally relay it. That's an amazing thing to be able to do. That's a whole nother level. A whole even further level is when people can read the Septuagint. Because we're not just talking, we're just talking biblical New Testament Greek. An epic thing to be able to do is to know the Greek of the Old Testament in the Septuagint form. That's a whole nother level. So anyways, there's a lot going on, but you do learn a lot. And it's you start to respect the language more, and I feel like you start to respect the New Testament more. And let me tell you something else. I know you just asked how I was doing, right?
Yeah, this is like a therapy session going on.
But you know what's cool, Leif? When you learn some basic words, like this sounds dumb, but it's weird when you see it. You learn the word Zoe for life, and then you learn the form, the first person form, where you're saying like I am, and then you learn the word for, say for example, life Zoe, okay, truth Aletheia, and then when you come to a sentence and you see this guy say I am, and then you see these words, you're like, whoa. I know it sounds simple, but because you see it in Greek, you're like, Jesus really is saying that. And then once you know the word and then see it used in that context, it feels a lot heavier, because you're like, well, he really is saying this. And these words have like a lot to them. Like we just say life, truth, but when you see it in the Greek, you realize like it's used in certain ways, and Jesus just puts all that on himself and says this about himself. Or when he says, before Abraham was I am, you're like, whoa. In Greek, it's simple. It's a simple construction. Both those examples are from John. They're actually perfect examples of the simplicity of John. But when you see the words and he's actually saying those things, like if you didn't know who was speaking and someone just gave it to you and you translated it, you would still be saying the same thing. You would still translate it that way. And you're like, well, Jesus really said this stuff. No wonder they were so mad. It just feels a lot heavier because you see it right there. And then that's the printed Greek text you're reading it in, right? But you can actually go to an ancient manuscript. Now, reading an ancient manuscript is a skill that most Greek students never obtain, because that's handwritten, and the older ones are all capitals and they're smooshed together. So that's a whole nother level. But high-level people that learn how to read the actual manuscript, not a printed text, you can even see it. And even people who don't, like me, you can go on an ancient manuscript of Greek, and you can see enough words sometimes to find where you are and see that is what's being said, because you'll recognize like a delta. A delta is a very easy thing to recognize in capital, because it's like the triangle. There's certain things you'll start to see, and you're like, oh, that's that word. And you realize the Bible really is what the Bible says. I know it sounds dumb, but you realize it in a new way of how, oh, this is all really what it is. And then people are like, what's it say in the Greek? And you realize, dang, our translations in English, they literally say what the Greek says. Now, you may say, well, then why do they differ here or there? There are interpretive choices you have to make sometimes, because that's the case with every single translation that's ever existed on the planet Earth. You have to make interpretive choices about some things. Some are more debatable than others, and because there's so much agreement, we tend to focus on those. But you read them through, and you're like, oh, I see why the CSB said God loved the world in this way, instead of God loved the world. What's the normal translation say it different, because you realize that word means in this manner. And so it's valid when they translate the beginning of John 3:16 that way, versus the other translations that might have, you're like, oh, well, either of those actually do work. And you see it all right there. So the CSB, the ESV, the NET, the LSB, we have a bunch of translations that literally say what the Bible actually says. And you're just like, this is amazing. And it's just cool because you realize, man, these people put in a lot of work to make this accurate. And we're just blessed because we have 10 or more translations that are highly accurate, especially when you get into stuff like the NASB. You see how the NASB is trying to imitate the Greek forms, and you're like, no, that's why it's not that readable as some of the other translations. But you see what they're trying to do because they're trying to imitate some of the way that Greek actually sounds, because Greek has certain ways that it portrays what are called verbal aspect, and you see the NASB tries to imitate that. They even try to imitate sometimes syntax more highly, and you're like, oh, I see what they're doing here. So basically, even me not doing that well in Greek class, I have learned a lot. And one is good translations are really good translations. We are very blessed in English because we have, like I said, over 10 we can choose from that are all going to get us to the right place. We're very, very fortunate as English speakers. We have so many translations of the Bible. But go ahead, brother. You just want to know how I was doing.
Could you repeat that? No.
Yeah.
No, it's wild for folks back in the day who, internet didn't exist, electricity doesn't exist. Oh, how do you, copy manuscripts? You got to sit by candlelight, dip the quill in the ink, and then, hunch over and go at that thing for countless hours. I mean, it's really incredible what people of the past had to do. But I mean, for them, it's like, yeah, that's what you got to do in order to learn biblical Greek, in order to translate. But yeah, no, that'd be a really cool thing to really know the text in its original language, because obviously you don't need to know Greek to refute the claims of the ignorant when they say, oh, how can we trust the Bible? It's been translated thousands and thousands of times, and they think it's some telephone game. It's like, no, we have what the original text said.
Yeah, we really do. And we really have, we don't just have like one or two scholar and we have to rely. You know what's crazy? It's so crazy. Imagine living in, say, I forget the exact date of the Latin Vulgate, but the 500s, late 400s, and I know 500s especially, I think is when Jerome was flourishing and when the Vulgate was. There was basically one main person who knew both languages and both Testament well enough to put it into a language that people could understand at the time, which is Latin, at least in the West. It's unbelievable that basically he had to be relied upon. Now, Jerome was brilliant, but there weren't enough people trained accurately enough for a high-level translation to know that knew both languages of the original scriptures themselves, plus Latin itself, to be able to do this. And so you had to rely on one person's translation, and it's not perfect. He didn't get it all right. And I'm no expert in Latin, so that comes another issue to say we have to know Latin to know what he really did. But you can read in English about what he did in Latin, type of thing. We're not in that kind of situation at all. There's no parallel at all to the time we live in, to where we have multiple committees on multiple translations, and then we can even essentially fact check their work with electronic tools. It is like unbelievable, because if you know how to read a parsing code, you can look at some of these interlinears or something like in Logos and different sources, and you can get the parsing code. And if you know how to read the parsing code, and that's crazy too. People went through and had to parse every single word, where they had to tell you, okay, this is nominative, okay, this is singular, okay, this is neuter. They had to do that with everything. And when you read the parsing code isn't numbers. They will just say like N, S, V, P, stuff like that. You can check their work even if you know the parsing code. It's unbelievable what we're able to do and the amazing tools we have at our hand in 2025. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. We are very blessed. Saves the Day says, why is it you trust the church provides you with an inerrant Bible, but don't trust its interpretation of the scriptures? Saves the Day, what church? Because you could be an Eastern Orthodox or you could be Roman Catholic.
Based on his follow-up comment, I believe he is Roman Catholic.
But the reason I say that is the point that you're saying the church, but there's not an agreement upon the so-called apostolic branches about what that is. And one reason saves the day is because of actually what we're talking about. Because we can look at Greek. We can look at Greek, and we can know that that Jesus has actual brothers. They're not just his cousins or something like that. And we can look at Greek, and we can know that Jerome kind of put a little too much sauce on what Gabriel said to Mary in regards to her being full of grace, and we can know that there's actual words that shouldn't have been there in Latin. And Martin Luther discovered this when he started learning the original language and realized, oh, Jerome made a mistake here. This isn't right. This isn't right. And you start to realize, oh, penance, oh, this is repentance. Uh-oh. And so part of the reason we reject the claims of Rome and Romanists is because we actually can look at the Greek and the Hebrew. And by God's grace, we don't have to trust. We don't have to trust just Roman scholars anymore in the West, and I think that's a good thing. But I mean, I think saves the day. This is not to say that obviously the Roman Catholic Church is filled with people that know Greek and Hebrew. So someone might say, oh yeah, but that's one reason why we're able to say, hey, this wasn't right what we've been told about this issue or that issue. And so I think that's important to understand. But we reject your assumption when you say church. What you mean is the Roman Catholic Church. We just reject that assumption wholesale. The Roman Catholic Church didn't have anything to do with what Peter was doing when he wrote his 2 epistles. It just wasn't even there. It just wasn't even a factor, the Roman Catholic Church. So it just doesn't have anything to do with the discussion, to be honest with you. I understand that's part of your apologetic that you think it does, but it's just not relevant. Leif, what about you? What you been up to?
Oh, yeah, a lot of reading, conversing with individuals who don't know Christ. Like on Saturday, spent an hour with 2 JWs. That was pretty fun. Yeah, kind of this and that, but mainly reading and learning more about different heresies and how to address them, and of course, reading that good word.
Well, did you see in Michigan the Dearborn mayor telling a local pastor he was not welcome there anymore?
Yeah, I did see that. Crazy stuff.
What do you think about that? What do you think the larger kind of what that means for things?
Well, I'd be lying if I said I knew the entire context or have seen, all the clips surrounding it and everything that led up to it. I've seen, the moment. But on face value, it seems a little odd that someone of a religion in which that religion, if practiced properly, is fundamentally diametrically opposed to Christian ideals. I'm not saying America is a Christian country, by no means, but it's a little interesting that in a country where freedom of religion is a thing, freedom of speech is a thing, that someone who subscribes to a religion that if they had their way would get rid of those two. But
well, let's take a look. Let's take a look, because we'll give you the context.
It's just a little weird. Okay.
So, so this is an update on this. This is September 25th. Dearborn mayor gives statement, doesn't apologize to resident he called racist. Let's take a look here and see what is said. All right. And I saw the more of the clip. It was a pastor bringing this up at a city council meeting, and the pastor made a good point. And what was the pastor's point? The pastor's point was, hey, I don't think we should be honoring this guy who was a terrorist. That actually was his point. So there was a council meeting, and they were going to rename a street. This is an honorary renaming of a street. After who? After a terrorist. And so a Christian brought this up and said, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's a good idea. And he was told that he is not welcome here by the mayor. The mayor told him, you're not welcome here. So it's at Warren Avenue, and the sign they're going to rename is going to be a tribute to Osama Siblani. And what's the issue with him? Well, let's take a look here. The main thing. Oh, there's the video, by the way. There's the Dearborn resident. That's him. And oh yeah, here's the full quote. I want to show you this too. You're an Islamophobe, and although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. The day you moved out of the city will be the day I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city. That is unbelievable. I mean, it's really not, unfortunately. But that's yeah. And you can watch it. It's all on video. It's all on video. And so this is some bizarre stuff. So that's what happened there, and this is recent.
What did the individual that they're Osama don't remember the last name. What did that guy do?
Yeah, so they're going to honor him, but let's find out what the problem is here with him. I mean, people might have a problem with saying, well, hey, terrorist. I guess I should be more accurate and say he's a terrorist supporter. Specifically, he's a supporter of Hamas. So
yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah, so what you have going on here is this is something that's happening in Michigan in general, and this is what we see happen in London, where you have liberals. In our case, we have Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who make ties that bind with Islamicists. And what's the problem with Osama Siblani? He's an open supporter of Hezbollah and Hamas. He has called for Jews to be, quote, sent back to Poland. And he's got all these friends in the government. And when you read about him, you're like, oh. So let's take a look at some. This is Memory, very important news source because they translate stuff from Arabic into English. And here's what he's Lebanese born, which by the way used to be a Christian country. So he's a publisher of Arab American News, asserted that Hamas is not a terrorist organization. And at a 2024 rally, responded to members of the crowd who chanted death to Israel by assuring them that Hezbollah has begun its invasion of northern Israel and, quote, will take care of the job. Later in the rally, he said to the Prime Minister Netanyahu, who wants to bring evacuated Israeli citizens back to the north of Israel, we are going to take you back to Poland. In 2022, Siblani blessed the blood of jihadi martyrs that irrigates the land of Palestine. That's a quote from him, praising terrorists for, quote, striking them with knives and with their bare hands, and they are victorious, end quote. In 2021, he praised the rockets used by Palestinian jihad factions against Israel, adding, to Palestine, take me with you, O heroes. So these are things that he said, and they're going to honor him with a street name there in Dearborn, and a Christian pastor raised a question about that. And when you watch the video, he's not like yelling or crazy. He's just saying, basically, is that a good idea? And the mayor responded in that way, which is unbelievable. And November 2023, Siblani boasted that Muslims are on the road to great victory in D.C. and Palestine. The White House and Washington are full of, quote, bloodthirsty killers who need to be cleaned out. And in May 2024, he said this, I can confidently tell you we are on the road to the White House, to Congress, to the decision-making everywhere in the United States. And in 2022, he said this, we are the Arabs who are going to lift Palestinians all the way to victory, whether we are in Michigan or whether we are in Jenin. Believe me, everyone should fight within his means. They will fight with stones. Others will fight with guns. Others will fight with planes. Whoa. Drones and rockets.
Yeah,
others will fight with their voices, and others will fight with their hands today and say, free, free Palestine. This guy
you weren't allowed to incite violence. I thought that was something you can't do.
Well, there's different rules from Muslims, and especially Muslims in Dearborn with the mayor like that. And so imagine questioning that decision. And there's Governor Whitmer at his birthday party, at this guy's birthday party. So this is a real issue in Michigan. This is exactly what we see in Europe, where politicians on the left sell out their own country, cozy up to Islamicists They water the tree of jihad for votes. But one day that tree is going to grow up, and it's not going to spare the leftists. They're just a ladder to get to the roof, and then the ladder's kicked away. So Whitmer is involved with this, not the only one. This is a serious, serious issue. They are honoring this man, and a Christian pastor at a council meeting said, hey, I don't think that's a great idea, bro. I'm going to put this, by the way, in the live chat so you guys can look at this as well. And the video is chilling, what this mayor says to this resident. It is unbelievable. And remember, it's in the context of him speaking his voice. And all of a sudden, he's an Islamophobe and racist. That's why those terms basically just have to become meaningless to us. Because they're just like used as smoke screens by people who want to accomplish wicked agendas. And we just have to say, you know what? Say what you will. What's the truth here? And so that's what's going on with that. So since I met you at a conference on Islam, that's why I said, let's talk about one of the other topics today that I wanted to address, and that was one of them right there.
Yeah. No, that's that's wild stuff. Honoring someone who's vocally calling for violent, I don't know what's it, insurrection?
Yeah. Let's see what the live chat says. Saves the day, our Roman Catholic friend says. The mayor is just being a good Muslim. Christians are his dhimmis. If he had his way, we would pay to breathe air. Yeah, unfortunately.
And the whole thing about, this terrorist supporter who's saying that, the land is irrigated with the blood of the martyrs. Well, it's in the context of killing Jews, but the Quran also says to fight those who disbelieve, not just the Jews. So you can extrapolate this to Christians, right? That's not Islamophobic. That's at all. That's common sense.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a real issue here. Cynthia says Dearborn is a Muslim town, but they voted for Trump. I don't know if that's accurate. I remember them saying they were going to hold off some votes for Kamala because they didn't feel like she was strong enough on their side, but I don't know if they voted for Trump. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this because I don't think that's right. But let me see. I could be wrong. Trump. Oh, so he won Dearborn, but I don't know if that means they. Let's see here. Well, maybe you're right. Hold on. Let me see here. Trump breaks it. Because I knew that they were holding out on. See, yeah. I think it's more withholding votes for Harris, is my understanding. I'm not saying no one there voted for Trump, but let's take a look. This is an AP article, because that's a little more like what my understanding is. But let's find out what it really is here. Let's take a look here. We're going to some different things here about this. So Trump breaks GOP losing streak in nation's largest majority Arab city with a pivotal final week. So this is Associated Press, no friend of Trump. Yeah. Arab American voters upset over Biden's administration handling war in the Middle East broke away from Vice President Kamala Harris in Michigan. See, that's different than voting for Trump, though. This is a November 2024 article. Faced with two choices she didn't like, Suhali Amin chose neither. See, I think it was a lot more of that than really vote. I'm not saying no one did, but it's just an interesting thing. It looks like they withheld votes more. Because, look, Harris received... Oh, and I see you, Kalia. Let me get you in a second here. It looks like Harris received less than half of Biden's Dearborn votes. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's a little... Third party received 20% of votes in 2024. I think it was more of that, which is interesting. So from the withholding. And you know what's crazy is... Others, including Amin, were unable to persuade themselves to back the former president. She said many Arab Americans felt Harris got what she deserved, but aren't jubilant about Trump. You see what I'm saying? What the Dems will... Oh, where'd you go? I was just about to bring you on. The guy just jumped off. I said, hold up, just give me a second. Well, okay, well, he's gone. He had a last name of Israel, so I imagine what he probably wanted to talk about. But now I can't see his face anymore. Where'd you go, brother? All right, there we go. All right, let's bring you up here. Boom. Leif, do you mind if I grab this guest here?
Yeah, for sure. It's your show. I'm a humble guest.
All right, let's see what he wants to talk about, and I might switch out here. Okay, how do you say call Yah? I think it's call Yah, and I'm gonna bring you up and see what you want to talk about. We got quite a different topics we can discuss. All right, call Yah, you are live on the smoke room. The floor is yours.
Hey, what's up, Vocab?
Oh, nothing much. Just talking about a variety of things today, as you can see.
Right.
Hello? We're breaking up, brother. Well, we're not breaking up. You're frozen. Okay, there you go. You stopped moving for a second. Go ahead. I'm listening. I didn't. If you said anything just now, I didn't hear you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, and I was saying I noticed you have that Charlie fellow in your title.
Yeah, I thought it was one thing that would be interesting to talk with people about, see what's on their mind, and we've talked about it once, so it's one of the issues that are current and relevant.
Right. So, as you know, to us Israelites, we really don't care about that fella. All right, your so-called Christian friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, how do you feel about your brother in Christ, Logic, crying about Kirk?
I think he displayed proper Christian affection and compassion.
Okay, so does the Bible say the righteous is supposed to cry for the wicked?
Well, I don't know why we're assuming Charlie Kirk is wicked.
I mean, would we agree wicked, evil is sin, and sin is breaking the law?
Sin is missing the mark. Sin is deviating from God's holiness. You could also say breaking the law. All kinds of things. Yeah.
Right, right. So Charlie Kirk, do you know if he kept the law? Did he keep the Sabbath day holy according to scriptures?
Well, his next book was about the Sabbath. The book that he's
Right.
coming out is actually about the Sabbath. So he did keep a personal Sabbath. That was one of his things.
According to scripture, though. According to scripture, like, do you keep the Sabbath?
Yeah, by being in Christ, that's how you keep the Sabbath. But let's
Right.
review here. You believe Charlie Kirk's a Gentile, right?
I believe he's the devil.
Okay, but you believe he's a Gentile, right?
Right, a Gentile that deserved that
Okay,
7-inch sniper in his neck.
Okay, so if Charlie Kirk's a Gentile, where do you ever see a prescription that Gentiles should be given the death penalty for breaking the Sabbath?
I see that for Israelites.
Right, so Charlie Kirk's not an Israelite, so he wouldn't deserve the death penalty for breaking the Sabbath. So why'd you ask that question?
Well, according to the scriptures, with the law, you perish with the law, even without the law. So it doesn't matter.
Okay, so you just said there is no instruction to kill Gentiles for not keeping the Sabbath, and now you backtracked
Right.
and saying you should kill them for not keeping the Sabbath. Which one is it?
I'm not backtracking. I'm not backtracking. I answer your question specifically. You asked me, is there a scripture that says to kill Gentiles that don't keep the Sabbath? There's not a scripture that says kill Gentiles that don't keep the Sabbath in those words. But there is a scripture that says those that have the law, you could perish with the law or without the law. Just summarizing.
Okay,
I'm not
so
backtracking.
so do Gentiles under any commandment that you're aware of, are they ever given the death penalty for not keeping the Israelite Sabbath?
I haven't seen any specific law like that. No, I haven't seen any specific law like that.
Okay, so do you see you're in a conundrum here because you brought up the Sabbath as if that made him worthy of death, but now we see it doesn't. So that's a problem for your position. Now let's go to another issue. Scripture says Scripture says thou shalt not murder, right?
Wait.
So
Hey,
you
vocab.
Yeah.
There's no conundrum or any of that stuff. All right. Just because the scripture don't say word for word, thou shalt kill someone for breaking the Sabbath, doesn't mean we void the other scripture that I was summarizing.
Okay. So was he killed by an Israelite for breaking the Sabbath?
Who
Charlie Kirk.
was no? What?
Well, okay, so again, your celebration is not relevant to the real reason he died. Do you know the assassin's motive? Are you aware of it?
Um, I really don't care, but I'm happy that Devil passed away.
Right, but you
All
want to
praise
be
to the Most
you
High.
want to be informed, I imagine, right?
When it comes to a devil dying, I could care less.
Okay, so you're happily ignorant. Well, let me inform you then. Tyler Robinson, the assassin, was a homosexual man who had a transgender furry boyfriend. He was part of the furry
All right.
community, and he was starting to transition, quote, into a female. And that's why the bullets were inscribed with what they were inscribed with. And that's why the Discord messages in their group said what he said about Charlie Kirk. So it seems like somebody who affirms Genesis, which says he made them in the image of God, male and female, would understand that Charlie Kirk's assassin killed him for affirming that truth. Something you would say you affirm because it's literally right there in Genesis 1, part of the Torah. So he wasn't killed because he broke the Sabbath. He was killed by somebody who was upset against his stand against transgenderism. Don't you see that you're on the wrong side of the issue?
No, I see that you're creating a straw man argument though, because when I originally joined your live, if you rewind it, I did not join your live saying, "Hey, I'm glad Charlie Kirk died for breaking the Sabbath." All
That was
right.
the first thing you brought up,
Originally,
though.
no. Originally, I was happy what took place, and I was trying to find out about why was logic cooning. That was originally what I came asking. Then we talked about wicked being evil, sin, etc. Then I said about him breaking the Sabbath. That's how we got into that conversation. So you're not going to be able to get me with a straw man
Well, I already
argument.
got
Then
you
I
twice.
didn't, wasn't
I already
really,
got you
no,
twice.
you didn't really.
Yeah, I got you
Again,
twice.
because honestly, if you rewind, I literally came up here talking about I was happy what happened with that situation and why the hell is logic cooning and crying? Why is your brother doing that? If you rewind, you'll see those are the first things that came out of my mouth.
Right. So we already got you twice. I'll get you a third
I
time.
mean, you could say that, but all we got to do is rewind.
I'll get you a third time.
Go ahead.
Love. What does love rejoice in, and what does love not rejoice in?
That doesn't apply to you, devils. Just to let you know.
Just if you could just answer the question
Yeah,
according
but
to first,
it doesn't apply to you, devils.
according to
if you-
according to 1 Corinthians 13, love does not
If you-
rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the
Right.
truth. Now, here's where I
Again,
got you.
wait,
Here's
wait,
where I
wait.
got
No,
you a third
vocab.
time. Is murder wrong, or
vocab.
is murder wrong, or is murder right? Well, your eyes are closed. It's a very fitting image for you to be frozen on. I'll wait for you to unfreeze. Okay.
Yeah. I do want for you to wait for me to unfroze. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Again, vocab. You asked a question that I'll be happy to answer. If you agree, who is this even speaking of? Is this love and stuff supposed to be towards the Israelites, etc., or just towards these heathen nations that have oppressed the Israelites? Because surprisingly, there is something I agree with you with that Israelites that don't have an ear to hear may be shocked about, but those that have an ear to hear would agree. So there is something that I do agree with you with that I may reveal later that you will very be surprised about. But yeah, keep stuff in context, please.
Okay, yeah. So we're the reading from 1 Corinthians 13. That's what I quoted. So we want to get the context, and the context is, of course, the beginning of the letter. And the beginning of the letter is 1 Corinthians 1, chapter 1, verse 24. It says, "To those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God." So the context is Jews and Greeks. So you trying to circumvent the plain meaning of 1 Corinthians 13 doesn't work. But here's where you have a further problem. He's not making it ethnically related. He's defining love in an objective biblical sense. So love is love regardless of who it's for. Love is an objective category he's defining according to the nature of God. And so we're supposed to desire that gift. You clearly don't, because you think the cry equals someone selling out, but you don't understand Christian compassion, and that's because you don't have the heart of Christ. You celebrate murder. But all the reasons you gave were off so far, so we go to another further one, which is this. Is murder wrong or right?
Before I answer that question, you lied again. The context, how you're gonna go all the way to 1 Corinthians chapter 1 to 24 and say that's the context. When you read the context in actual 1 Corinthians, that's actually talking to the Israelites, vocab. Are
Yeah.
Edomites the saints? Vocab. Are Edomites the saints? Because it clearly says in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 2, unto the church of God, which is at Corinth, to them that are sanctified in Christ Jesus, called to be saints.
And right
So
before that,
are
it said
Edomites the
Jews
saints?
and Greeks.
Okay, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. But
No,
you
that comes
said
first. That's why I went to the beginning of the letter to show you who was addressed.
it actually does not
But
come
none
first.
of this,
That's a lie.
none of this. No, it's not, because I
Okay,
literally,
you lied again.
I literally read it. Now
Could you
this
share
is
the screen to prove
so-
it? Because I'm looking at it right now. You're lying.
we're lying about what?
You're lying about saying your point came first. It doesn't. My point comes first.
Mine's for 1 Corinthians 1.
Yeah, I'm in 1 Corinthians 1.
Oh, you're talking about verse 2. No, I'm saying
Yeah.
first before 13. It's before 13. But wait, if you're saying I can't go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 1 because it's not the context of 1 Corinthians 13, even though it's the same letter, then how come you can go back to 1 Corinthians 1?
Okay, again, I didn't say you can't go back. Again,
Yes, you
don't lie
did.
on
You
me,
said it.
vocab.
You said it's
No,
not
no,
the
no.
context. You said
keep
it wasn't
lying.
the
Yes,
context.
that's
You said it
what I
wasn't the
said.
context.
But don't lie on me. I didn't say you
Call
can't
ya.
go back. I said it's not
When
the
the Hebrew
context.
Israelites tell me I'm lying, you know what it means? I know that I beat them up verbally in the
You're
scriptures.
lying. No,
That's
no,
what it
you
means.
didn't beat me. Just share
Yeah,
the
that's
screen
what
right
it
now.
means. Because all you guys
the
have
screen.
is you're a liar, you're a racist. That's all
Share
you
the
got. That's all
screen.
you got.
Vocab, share your screen. Share your screen and go to 1 Corinthians 1 and 2.
I know what 1 Corinthians 1 and 2 says. It says saints,
Let the
and
people
saints is
see.
defined later in the letter, which is why I read from that chapter.
Vocab, share the screen. I'll be happy to go to your verse with you. Share the screen.
We know what it says. It's right here.
No. Vocab, put it on this. Nobody could read. I can't even read that. Vocab.
But you know what it says. But the thing is,
I want the audience to see you're lying.
but wait, listen. I'm having you on. I'm letting you talk. But you don't
Yeah,
get to
but
tell me what I had to do at what time and all this stuff. You just
Well,
gotta.
it's all good. You're
You gotta
just not
settle
gonna
down
lie
with
on me.
that. But here's the thing: you're
lied
doing
on
all
me many
this.
times with
You're
that.
doing all this to avoid 1 Corinthians 13,
I'm
which
not. I
defines.
want to go to the,
I'm going to finish
I
my
want to-
sentence. I'm going to finish my sentence.
Go
which
ahead. I'll
defines.
let you. Just to show
It's
you.
not you letting me.
It's,
It's
Go
not you
ahead.
letting. It's just trying to show basic decorum.
I'm letting you. Go ahead.
1 Corinthians 13 is defining love objectively. And my point by saying that was showing you that you, if you followed scriptural mandate, would not celebrate something that was wrong because murder is wrong. Murder is the unauthorized taking of another human life. You don't get to just kill people randomly because that is something that was given even in Genesis 9:6. You can't murder because you're made in the image of God. And if you do murder, blood will have to be shed, your own, to account for the murder. That's Genesis 9:6. So if you were truly a man of God, you wouldn't celebrate murder regardless of who it was. Even if you think it's two Gentiles involved, Genesis 9:6 is a pre-Mosaic instruction to humanity that comes out of the ark. So the whole point was to show you you are celebrating wrong because you said you were happy. You don't have to like Charlie Kirk, but celebrating murder is a different thing. So why would you celebrate, as someone who says they keep the law, murder?
Okay. So could I answer? Could I? I'm gonna answer the question now. Okay. Because I didn't interrupt you, so I hope you don't interrupt me. All right. So in Exodus and Deuteronomy 16, we see the month of Aviv, right? Passover time period taking place. The Israelites are celebrating what? What are the Israelites celebrating on Passover?
Freedom from bondage out of Exodus. What does this have to do with anything,
We're
bro?
gonna see right now. We're gonna see right now. Okay, freedom from bondage from who?
Egyptians. Oh my God.
Egyptian. Okay, so within the same time period, freedom from bondage with Egyptians, guess what? The Lord went and killed all of the firstborn of the Egyptians. That was part of what took place to set the Israelites free. And when you actually look at the feast days of God, many of the feast days involves us actually celebrating, overcoming, destroying our enemies, killing them.
It doesn't
All
have
right,
anything to
so
do with
all
you.
praise to the
It
Most
doesn't
High
have anything
that
to do with
vocab
you.
got-
It's not
that-
us. It's
hey,
it's not
I was
us.
gonna
It's the
say
people of
vocab.
Israel.
All praise to the Most High.
Yeah.
All praise to the Most High that Kirk got put to death. All right, all praise to the Most High.
Well,
Just like the Grecians had us in slavery, right? In Maccabees, and Judah Maccabees conquered them. right? And same with the day of Simon. Hey, they was conquering these Grecians. All praise to the Most High. It's something to celebrate about,
You're not an
right?
Israelite though, so it's not us.
I am an Israelite.
Of
I am an
course,
Israelite.
of course, you're
I
not
am
an
an
Israelite.
Israelite.
Just because your
I'm an
handle
Israelite.
says Israel doesn't make you an Israelite.
You're not an Israelite, Vocab. That's the thing.
Oh, I've never claimed
And
to be a physical Israelite.
hey, that's why you go into every camp trying to find a way to go in. I would love to see you in LA. I haven't seen you in LA. I would love to see you or Logic in LA. Because I'm a really
Logic was literally
fan.
just in LA. He posted the video last week.
Logic, hey, he was in Hollywood. I wasn't in Hollywood.
Well,
I
who
don't
are
teach
you?
in
No one
Hollywood.
knows who you are, where you are. Why do
I
Hebrew
actually
Israelites?
teach.
Why do Hebrew Israelites think that they're the center of our discussions and thought? Like no one
No,
is afraid of
that's
any
actually
Hebrew
not
Israelite
true.
on the planet. Listen, I can't tell you how many Hebrew Israelites have told me, "Come to our camp," and guess what? I go to their camp. It happens time and time again. You guys always think you're going to be the one camp that can stop the truth. It never happens. No one. I don't
Okay,
know who
first of
you
all-
are, but there's no problem going there. It's not a problem. But listen, why don't you come to Phoenix then? Why don't you come to Phoenix? Let's debate out here. Like, why does the Hebrew Israelites think we got to always go to them? Come to where I am. You know.
Okay, so
Let's have a
could I
debate
answer-
in Phoenix. It's only a short
Could I
hour,
answer?
5-6 hour drive. Are you
Could I
down to
answer?
debate in Phoenix?
Okay, so again, it's not really about you coming to us or we going to y'all. My whole point is.
So you'll debate me in
I'm
Phoenix then?
No, hold up. My whole point is
Okay, yeah.
is that who's always pulling up on who? You see Israelites, we out there in the Sabbath, minding our business. Here comes Mr.
Minding
Cool,
your
Uncle
business?
Yes, we're teaching the word of
Minding your business?
God. Yes.
Hey,
minding
look,
our
we're going to put you in
business.
slavery, little
You sure
child.
will.
That's not
We
minding
sure
your
will. And
business.
you
Or
gonna
when
be
you
the first one, Vocab.
or when you're
You gonna be the first one. You gonna be the first one.
I'm already a slave. I'm a slave
Hey,
to
you gonna
Christ.
really be a slave with a chain on your
I'm
neck.
already a slave.
You gonna really be a slave. But let me make my point though, because you said it. You
Well,
were
brother,
saying about
I
coming
think
out
there might
there.
be if one Westism is true, you better watch out for the chains too, because you're looking a little light over here, brother. You're looking a little
John,
light.
Hey, you should read John 7, right, where Christ says, "Judge not according to appearance." It has nothing to do with color, y'all. You know that, Vocab. All the stalking that you've done, you know, has nothing to do with color. Vocab, you know, with your same skin tone, if your forefather go back to Israel, you would have been an Israelite. So don't even try that.
Here's the real
But my
issue.
whole
You told me to
Could
read
I say
John
my
7. I like the idea of you reading John 8, which says, "You're like your father, the devil, who was a murderer from the beginning." Notice who's celebrating murder on this live stream, yet claiming to keep Torah? You. And you have not justified why you think the unauthorized killing of another human being is acceptable. This shows you're of the devil. Like, you,
Okay, I'm gonna
you
get back to
literally
that,
have
but-
his same heart, brother.
I'm gonna be quiet.
You literally have the same heart. So you still haven't justified why you think that murder is a good thing.
Okay, so Vocab,
Yeah.
you keep, like, when I'm speaking, you cut me off and then you go back to another point. Let me finish my point and we go straight into what you just said. We cool with that?
I'm listening.
If
Go
it-
ahead.
Okay, so just to point something out, like I was saying originally, we're minding our business on the highways and byways, as it says in Luke 14 and 23. And guess who comes with camera and everything? Either Vocab, Logic, Uncle Ruckus, aka Coon of the Century, Logic. Y'all always pulling up on us when we minding our business. You don't ever really see Israelites walking up to Vocab. That's rare if you see it. I haven't seen that. I could pull up so many videos where y'all come and harass us.
So,
I want you. What I want y'all to do is keep that same energy with Brother Hassad and Deacon. Keep that same energy and tell Logic not to run from them, because I know they're cooking something up nice for Logic.
Are you unaware that I have sat down face to face with Assad? Are you unaware
Right.
in
No,
Philly?
I've actually seen that old clip. I'm saying
It's not a clip. It was over an hour
a
discussion.
video. I've actually seen that when he was with Sakari. I've seen that. Okay,
No, me.
so-
I'm saying me. So no one's running from Hassad.
Yeah, I've seen you. No, I'm talking. I said Logic. I want Logic.
Brother, Logic
For
would
him to
not.
keep that same
Logic
energy.
is not running from any Hebrew Israelite
Yeah,
that
he
has
is.
ever existed.
He is.
He just went to New York and took you all on. What are you talking
Who's
about?
all? Who? Who did he take on?
First of all, he's already debated Cesariak at Washington Square Park. Then he
And he
debated.
lost.
Then he debated Yah What's Up. But of
And
course
he
you're going to
lost.
say he lost because you're a propaganda
He did,
machine.
especially with Isaiah 19.
Of course you're going to say that. But
Especially with
that's
Egypt, my
different than
people,
you
and Assyria, my people.
than you saying he's running. He showed up to Times Square for 3 days in a row. I was with him and challenged all Hebrew Israelites and Muslims to come. And Muslims are a lot more scary than you guys because they have bigger numbers and they are willing to kill a lot quicker. So it's like no one is afraid of all this Hebrew Israelite nonsense. Like I don't know why you think people are concerned to do this. God logic would take on anyone, as would I, in the scriptures, because Hebrew Israelism is false. Therefore, there's nothing to be afraid of. Now, you just said you wish I would come to L.A., and now you're saying it's not about coming to L.A. It's not about debating.
I said that in the sense of you guys pull up on the wrong people.
We don't know
That's
who
why.
you are. How are we going to pull up on you? I've never
It doesn't
seen you
matter.
till
I'm
now.
just saying you guys pull up on the wrong people. That's what I'm saying.
I pulled up. I've had face-to-face encounters numerous times with Al-Azhar, with Assad, with Tazariak. Not only that, with Tahar, with Gabar, and Ariam Lob. I could go down the list. I've went to WFI in Cleveland. I've dealt with multiple. I mean, I could just go down the list. Every Hebrew Israelite group says, "What about our group? Try our group." We went to IUIC. IUIC calls the cops on us. There's no camp we have not encountered. We have talked to the moderates IOG inside their buildings. We've talked to Sakari. We've talked to ISUPK. We've talked to IUIC. We've talked to GMS. We've talked to HOI out there in Times Square. I talked to AOC. What are you talking about? No one is avoiding you.
Let me be a little bit more specific, Vocab, because I'm not going to deny nothing you just said. I'm an honest person. Specifically, Logic. All right, he's someone I have an issue with. Since he cried for that white devil, I really have an issue with him so much to where I think Israelites shouldn't even waste their time dealing with a high-level coon like that. Like you lost any type of respect when you cried for your master. Did he cry like that for George Floyd?
That's a great excuse. That's a great excuse to avoid a theological.
I'm sure I can't go.
Yeah, that's a great excuse for you to avoid a theological beatdown.
Like that.
But if you shouldn't deal with Logic, why did you jump on his live stream?
That was, you said why I didn't jump to rebuke him. Watch the whole thing. Play it right now.
I just now discovered this video when you were talking, so I'm like, oh, this is who it is. So if it's 40 minutes, I'm not gonna play it. It's 40 minutes. I'm not gonna play it at 40. What is it?
Skip to the end. My whole
30
point
minutes.
was
30
to
minutes.
rebuke
27
him.
minutes.
That was my whole point. Was to rebuke him, and I did. That was my whole point.
So wait, if you're saying don't deal with him, then why would you want Hassad to debate him? Which one is it? Make up your mind.
No, I'm saying Israelites should. That's the mindset they should have.
Wait, they should? Wait, but why would you want to debate him if you shouldn't deal with him?
Why would I want to debate him?
Yeah, you're saying you want him to debate Hassad, but you said Israelites shouldn't deal with him. Which one is it?
Okay, I'm saying that's just the mindset I'm thinking they should have. They're still going to debate him. So if they're going to still debate, they should debate Hassad. That's what I'm saying. It's just my thoughts. My thoughts is that they should not deal with him because of his coonery. But they're still going to deal with him. So the fact that they're still going to deal with him, they should go ahead and deal with Hassad and Deacon. That's my point, what I'm saying. And I saw the coon in there tap dancing for you in the comments. And I'm sure he was happy when you highlighted his comments. Just like you smiling, I'm sure that's how he's smiling.
Do you understand God Logic has a massive YouTube channel? He doesn't need my little click. God Logic is doing incredible work with incredible numbers. He doesn't need vocab to bring on his thing. You guys are so silly. And you know what's funny?
I never said that.
The word you've called God Logic several times. How would you define that word? I'm curious.
He's a coon. He's a
no. I know that's what you're saying. How would you? How would you define it?
I'm gonna say the same thing. He's a coon, a Uncle Ruckus.
Okay, but define it, please. Define it.
This is my definition of it. Someone that's gonna tap dance, cry, and smile whenever needed for their slave master that oppressed them, but couldn't keep that same energy for George Floyd, right, and Trayvon Martin, etc. Right. I promise you, there's no video that could be pulled up with him crying for either George Floyd or Trayvon Martin. I promise you. But he's gonna do it for someone that's a devil. his enemy according to the scriptures.
Well, you would consider George Floyd and Trayvon Martin 2/3, first of all. So I don't know why you're asking him to do
Actually,
that.
I wouldn't. You just lied on me.
Because you guys are excited when the 2/3 die. Now,
No, you just lied on me.
that's what Hebrew Israelites, well, the One Wester ID say.
Actually, no.
You're a One Wester. You're down with Sakari or Genesis now, supposedly. So you clearly are.
I actually have my own camp. I just have respect
so that's
for
why
his
you're
God
jumping on all of our streams. You're making the rounds. You're the new Ashrakah.
No.
We know your type.
You say what?
You're the new Ashrakah. He jumps on everyone's live streams to get content. You're the new version of that. Okay, this all makes sense now.
I don't even. Hey, the last time we uploaded, I'm not even gonna say my camp name. The last time we uploaded was almost 2 weeks ago. So that's not even the point.
It's not my fault. You're lazy. But why don't you tell us your camp name?
Oh, I'll say it. I don't mind. Gather yourself together. I don't mind saying it, but my whole point was to answer your question. You said, "Oh, you're with Genesis or whatever." I was saying, "No, I'm not with them. I was just giving them the respect for what they do." All right. So that's all I'm saying.
Gather yourself together. Well,
right,
so would you say that a synonym for that word could be someone who's a sellout to their race?
Logic?
No. The synonym.
Yeah, logic. Yeah, logic is a high level sellout.
Okay, so someone who sells out their race is someone who doesn't want to have anything to do with it, right? They want to leave it.
He's a coon in general.
That's you. You don't want to be black. You want to be an Israelite. You're the definition of what you're saying he is. You don't want to be your own self. That's what's so ironic about this. You're the sellout. You don't want to be who you are. You want to be a Jew. But
Vocab,
you're not.
double talking. You're double talking.
Got him.
You literally just said I'm black, but then earlier you're gonna say I'm pretty light. So which one am I, Vocab? Do you know your color?
Well, people have multiple genetic factors in their body and in their blood, and so that's how it works. That's why Hebrew Israelism is so silly. It's much more complicated, than the way Hebrew Israelites put it.
Again, Vocab. All right, I'm not a color in a crayon box. All right, I have an actual nationality, just like you are not white. Okay, you have an actual nationality. Unfortunately, your nationality is going to have you in chains at the end of the day.
Why would my own nationality put me in chains?
Hey, because let's just say there's prophecy lined up for you. All right, let's just say there's prophecy lined up, and there you go, Logic. There go Logic tap dancing, probably singing, shucking, and jiving like Carlton from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all type of stuff.
In all seriousness, Kalya, like
I'm serious. I want you to know I'm very, very serious.
I understand because you've imbibed this ideology, but I'm trying to. I'll say this is like serious help. We hear what you're saying, but I don't know if you realize yet how played out it is to just say someone who disagrees with you is a buck dancer. We just don't. No one takes it seriously anymore because what you've done is you've avoided discussing the substance of the issue and you're just name calling. No one takes it serious. That's what you guys do to anyone who disagrees with you. If it's somebody from one side, they're a white supremacist. If it's somebody from the other side, they're a sellout. And it's just not going to work anymore because we have actual arguments against you. And when we go head to head, just the insults and the mocker, they just don't work. People are tired of it. They want substance. And you guys don't really offer much substance. That's why we saw in the beginning of the conversation, with all due respect, you got caught up like 3 different times.
No, I didn't.
You can't keep a consistent thought in your head, and that's what your religion has done to you. I don't think you're not intelligent. I think your religion has corrupted your brain, though.
Vocab, you're lying. That's why you couldn't show the screen when I was asking you to do that.
That doesn't fix 1 Corinthians 1 saying saints doesn't fix the issue that I brought up, which is where it says Jews and Greeks. And
it does fix the issue.
Doesn't fix it for
all you
one
have to do is
Westism.
admit the context of who the letter is written to first, and then I could easily address the Greek situation.
But that's because you didn't understand that Paul in 1 Corinthians 13 is objectively defining what love is. He's not defining it in relationship to what you're saying. But let's do something more concrete. Let's do something more concrete you never answered. Genesis 9:6. Was the death of Charlie Kirk a violation of Genesis 9:6? Yes or no?
Let me go to it right now.
So I'll show it, And then here's the
Okay. Oh,
context.
now we're gonna show it. Go ahead, show it.
Here's the context. Noah
Now-
comes out of the ark, right? All it says is saints. It's all it says. I didn't want to bring up one verse. I didn't bring up my verse either. I just read it when it says Jews and
Vocab, you can't
Greeks.
say all. If you could be honest, Vocab. Well, actually, Deacon said you can't be honest. So,
No,
and I've seen that so far.
he's
I've
not.
seen
He's
that
not.
so far.
Hold on. He's not a deacon anymore. You got to call him his name.
Hey,
What is
priest Haka? Make it clear. You cannot be honest.
priest to God?
Okay.
We got to tell him.
Right.
We got
Right.
to get his
Hey,
title
no,
right.
All respect to the brother. There's no disrespect to the brother. All respect to the brother. But at the
'Cause-
end of the day, he made it clear you can't be honest. So, and I've seen that. You try to lie many times. What you mean saints don't matter, Vocab? Who are
No,
the
because saints is
Vocab?
defined by what I read first, so you're too late. Okay,
Vocab, who are the saints?
Jews and Greeks in the context of 1 Corinthians 1. It's those who are called.
So in the Bible, okay, so if it's talking about Greeks, so you would say Greeks are the Europeans, right?
No, I would say Greeks are Greeks. They're Mediterranean peoples in an area that now would be called Southern Europe. But look,
Okay.
but
Wait.
but
So
Greek
in
can also be.
Revelation 13,
Can we?
in Revelation 13 and 10, those Greeks are going to be patiently waiting to kill
That's not
those?
Revelation 13 doesn't mean that, number one, because Revelation
All right.
13 is saying that Christians are going to be persecuted by people like you, and that all we have to do is have patience, whether we're jailed or killed. Now,
Not
looking
Christians, Israelites.
you're not. It's no, it doesn't, brother.
Israelites, Vocab.
It's called the
Israelites.
Lamb, the marriage supper of the Lamb. You have the bride of Christ. It's not Israel. It's
And
the bride
that's
of it's
Israelite.
the bride of Christ is not Israel.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. But
Yes, it
okay,
is.
well, your religion's taught you to say that, so you got to say that. But check
No,
this
it
out.
hasn't.
Romans 9. I'm sorry, Genesis 9:6.
I'm
It
going to prove
says
that right now, actually.
okay, but here's what I'm trying to show you: that your celebration of someone's assassination. You say you're a lawkeeper, and yet you are celebrating someone who violated a Noahic command. That's what I'm
Okay.
trying to show. This shows that you give lip service, but you're not a lawkeeper, because a real lawkeeper wouldn't celebrate this. So here's what it says: from each man's brother, I will require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. For in the image of God he made man. So this is the death penalty for murder. This is not given to Israel. This is given to Noah and those who came out of the ark. So why would
Okay.
you celebrate the violation of Genesis 9:6?
Right. So it's not given to Israel, just like you said. It was given to Noah and those that came out the ark. So all praise to the Most High. I'm going to celebrate my ass off that Charlie Kirk got that 7-inch sniper bullet in his neck. All praise to the Most High.
So Genesis
All right.
9:6 doesn't apply to you?
Not for my enemies. No, it don't.
But aren't you a descendant of Noah?
I'm an Israelite. It goes farther than being a
No,
descendant.
but
of,
aren't you? Yes or no? Are you a descendant of Noah by definition?
Yes, and then you keep
Okay,
going.
okay.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So nice
Okay.
try.
So you
nice try.
so you are a descendant of Noah, right? So it does apply
Again,
to you.
specifically from Isaac, Israel, Jacob,
Okay,
Israel.
was Noah or Isaac first, my friend?
Wait. Could I ask a question?
Yes, after you answer, who was first, Noah or
I
Isaac?
mean, I already did many.
Noah was before
Noah
Isaac,
was-
right?
Okay, Noah. Now,
Okay.
could I ask my question?
Okay, so it does apply to you. Go ahead.
It doesn't. Could we go to Hosea 2:19?
Well, no, I don't want to go to a new thing, and I know I got.
Okay.
No.
Because in Hosea 2:19, it says the Israelites are the wife. That's why. So you lied again.
No, because you're leaving
Hey,
the discussion
going-
that's
no,
on
no,
the
no.
floor. That's why. I'm tired of you
no.
Hebrew hopscotching.
I asked you. I told you if I answer your question, could I ask you one? You said yes.
You can
asked
ask
and
me, but
answered
it doesn't
right
mean I have
away.
to go where you want to go. I don't like
so you're-
Hebrew
okay,
hopscotching.
all you're doing is proving what Pre said. You're a liar and you're deceptive. I did exactly what you asked. This is why you're going into slavery. And I know Logic, coon ass, is definitely gonna cry for you when he find out, hey, your ass is in slavery.
Hey, you know what? What would happen if Logic, who I'm going to bring up here in a second, what would happen if he was my master?
Hey, that would be beautiful.
You
'Cause
like that?
You want to know why it would be beautiful?
Yeah,
I'm
tell
gonna
me.
read it because I know you're not gonna read it. So I'm gonna read why it would be beautiful.
Okay.
Hey, that's a beautiful question.
Yeah, it's
gonna read
beautiful. Go ahead, I'm listening.
I'm gonna read it. All right, so Ezekiel chapter 25, verse 14. So if Logic got saved and he was your master, this would be your outcome. And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. And they shall do in Edom according to my anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, said the Lord God. So guess what? He wouldn't have that same coon spirit in him to pet you and give you extra food and drink. He will be freaking roughing your ass up, Vocab.
Hey,
All
that
right.
sounds.
Hey, look at this freaking damn coon.
Did you say
Hey,
he's gonna rough me up?
Hey,
Because that
a
sounds
coon.
real
Logic,
suspect,
you're
brother.
a coon. You're a coon, a high level coon. All right, you need to get your shit together before your ass get put to death, according to Isaiah 13 and 15. All right, you a high level coon, and that's some sad shit. Last time he was muting me, I'm surprised this deceptive devil's not muting me right now.
Give it time. Give it
Of
time.
course,
Give it time.
you know why he's not muting me? Because he loved to see his boy tap dance. He loved for you to entertain him.
No, because I mainly
I know
like.
Vocab just looking at you like, oh, look at that boy tap dance for me, and you're just doing it.
All right,
Keep doing it.
Let's let God Logic speak. All right, we got the brother on. Welcome to Street Apologist Live, brother God Logic. It looks like I've met your friend, huh?
Oh man, yeah, man. You met my friend. This bum hopped up on my stage, and this bum is lying here telling you that he came to rebuke me. This idiot came up trying to argue that Jesus wasn't the Most High God, and in 2 seconds admitted that Jesus is the Most High God and he made a mistake. Then, once I was getting ready to show him a verse that says Jesus is the Most High God, he told his wife to get his Bible because I was going to show him the verse. He said, go ahead, wife, get my Bible. And then that's when that demon just emerged from outside of it, just came out, just manifested. His hair got loose. He started drooling at his mouth, saliva in his beard. And that's when all this manifestation started happening. This bum couldn't even engage in a theological dialogue. So that's what we saw. That's what happened. And it's amazing seeing you here again, man. It's good to see you again. I'm glad you're alive.
Call is that true? What he just said, is that true?
If I could respond without interruptions, like I didn't interrupt him.
Is that true? Is that true?
Am I going to be interrupted?
Just tell us if it's true, brother.
What I mean, I want to respond, but am I going to be interrupted?
Is that the truth?
Go ahead. Is it true?
Was that the truth?
Let me. Okay, so originally, because I actually have a TikTok with a large following, so I do the same thing.
You don't care about the TikTok.
Hold up, no. I'm staying on the subject. All right, I do the same thing you do. The only difference is, for me, I would keep my hand on the mute button in case someone tried to say stuff to get my channel taken down. So with that same mindset, I know that you have a channel as well, Logic. So I'm thinking if I just go out and get on his head, he's just gonna mute me and disconnect me. I wouldn't get to rebuke him. So I'm gonna play his game. But while I'm playing your game of is Jesus
came up deceptively.
God, there you go. You're gonna mute me. I mean, you're not gonna. You're gonna interrupt me. There you go.
Got it.
You're gonna interrupt me. You're gonna interrupt me.
You came up on deceptive pretenses, huh?
So God Logic, what do you think it would take to get him to manifest again?
Nothing.
I think if we start talking about how Jesus is the Most High God, because that's what did it last time.
That'll do it.
What did it last time?
Is that your trigger? Is that your trigger, call ya?
That's not a trigger, actually. Could I finish explaining my point? I'm almost done though.
Okay, go ahead.
Finish my point. Okay, so again, I said, okay, if I just rebuked him right away, he's gonna kick me, so I can't do that. So I'm gonna play his game. So I did that, but in the whole time I was thinking about rebuking him. So yes, I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna love this right now, Vocab. You're gonna love this. So I'm sure you're not gonna interrupt me. And Logic, Kunas is gonna love this too. So I'm sure you're not going to interrupt me.
Hey,
so
I want you to I'd appreciate it if you could refrain from that. You know, it's one thing.
Nah, he's a coon. I'm not gonna refrain from that.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm gonna ask.
He's a demon.
Yeah, but call ya. If you could just refrain from that.
Calm it down, man.
Go ahead.
Him? Go ahead or me?
I want you to finish. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So he asked me, is Jesus the Most High God? Right? And when he first asked me that, I was like, no, if I'm remembering correctly. When he first asked me, I said no. And then we was talking more, whatever. The whole time I'm still thinking about how I'm going to rebuke him without being disconnected. So then I said, you know what? Yeah. I know you love that, Vocab. I know you love that. But then
You
in
say,
the video,
yeah,
you hear me.
what?
Hold up.
You
Then in
said,
the
yeah,
video, you
what?
hear me say, wait, you're talking about in Isaiah, right? Because I know in Isaiah, it calls him mighty God. So I was mixing him being called mighty God with most high God. So that's an error on my end. But nowhere in the Bible is Christ called the most high God. And just like he's not called the Ancient of Days. Again, so that's the only reason I slipped up, because I was thinking about how to rebuke your ass
I
without you
slipped
disconnecting
up.
me. Logic. He's not the Most High God. Okay.
Got you. So you end up slipping up because of all that was on your mind.
Yeah, I didn't know. I wanted to rebuke you. I'm being
All
honest.
that
See, that's
was
the
on your
difference between
mind
me and Vocab
was how,
and
just real
you,
quick,
because you a
all that
liar
was on
too.
your mind was just how you were going to cuss me out,
How I was
manifest
gonna
with
rebuke
drool
you for
in
doing
your
it.
beard. And so you ended up slipping up with your bum self and your bum face and your bum
I
argument.
mean,
You ended up
that don't.
slipping up saying that Jesus is the Most High God. You ended up your zeal to so-called rebuke me led you proclaiming the truth about Christ. Huh? Is that it?
No, I didn't proclaim the truth about Christ, because I was very clear. Even in the video, you
I
could
think
literally
God's will
click
was
on
done
it.
that day, man.
You could click on it where I literally say, "Oh, you mean in Isaiah?" Because again, in Isaiah, it calls him
And then
mighty
I
God.
told you no. I told you no. In Daniel, he's called the Most High God, and you was like, okay, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he is the Most High. He is the
Again
Most High.
and
He
again,
just
and
not.
what?
Hold on, let me finish. You said,
Go ahead. Go
but
ahead.
he's just not called the Ancient of Days. He's called the
Right.
Most High, but he's just not called the Ancient of Days. See, only the Father's called the Ancient of Days. See. So you acknowledge that Jesus was the Most High in Daniel, just not the Ancient of Days. You wasn't getting confused with Isaiah 9:6. Stop that bum lying. You're lying, you
Okay.
bum. Stop doing that.
Okay. So again, yes, I was. You can't tell me I didn't mix it up. Because
Yeah, I
again, he
can.
is called mighty God.
I was there.
Hey, I didn't interrupt you just now.
So what?
So
You're a
again,
bum. I don't care.
all right. So I'm gonna interrupt you. Oh, you know what? Go ahead. Show off for your slave master. Show off for your slave master, you damn coon.
But notice,
All right.
Call, yeah, remember that you established that the word you like to use is basically somebody who is a sellout to their people. They don't want nothing to do with them, and you fit that description because you don't want to be black. You sell out your actual people because you want to be Jewish. You want to be somebody else. That's closer to the definition of a sellout, you know? You froze again, brother. So that's interesting. You guys had a discussion. I'll try to watch that later. I saw you clipped it because someone just sent it to me. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's only like
Wait.
it's not the whole video.
You just said something, Vocab, and I freezed. You just said something and I freezed.
You froze.
Froze. Hey, I really don't care.
It's like the first. It's like the first
My
8
whole
minutes. It's
point
like the
is,
first 8-9
again,
minutes of the video.
Okay, I'll check it
Again,
out.
It's not the whole.
You said something, and I never said I didn't want to be black. What I said is black. That's a color. All right. That's not a nationality. So again, please stop lying out of your mouth, Vocab. Can you rewind where I said I didn't want to be black, Vocab?
No, you don't have to say it. Just when you want to become Jewish instead of being who you are.
I never said nothing about no Jewish devil, Vocab. I didn't do that either. All right.
Are you Jewish?
I'm not Jewish. No.
You're not Jewish, but
I'm not Jewish, Vocab.
That's interesting. Do you think that there were people in the Bible that were Israelites that were Jewish?
I know there was Israelites called Israelitish, etc., but I'm telling you, I'm not Jewish. I don't want you to try to relate me to the people out there in Israel, etc., the synagogue of Satan. I'm a Jew, an Israelite. All right.
Okay.
Hey, Logic. Hey, you're. Oh my God.
Is this all you got? Call yeah. This is now.
Hey,
let's go back to what we
honestly,
originally.
I really just. I'm upset with him.
Well, I know you're a very
disappointed.
emotional man. That's why you messed up
disappointed
earlier.
with this
A
level of
lot's on
coonery.
your mind. I understand.
Lots
But
on
it's
his
biblical
mind.
to
Jesus
be
is the
like
Most
that. Vocab. Let
High.
me say this real quick.
Okay.
It's
All that's
biblical
on
for
his
me to
mind.
be like that. Because in the
You almost
Maccabees, hey,
It sounds like
Judah
you. It
Maccabees
sounds like
did
you
not
repented
play
of your
with
falsehood.
Judah Maccabees didn't play with the
It
coons.
sounds like you
in
repented of your
Maccabees.
falsehood by saying Jesus is the Most High. I'm proud of you.
We're
proud of you, bro.
jumped over and
We're,
slayed an
we're proud of you.
Israelite for betraying Israel.
We're proud of you, man. We're
I'm
proud of
not
you.
trying
You're
to slay
good.
nobody. That's gonna be up to Christ. I just can't
We're
stand
proud
his
of you.
coonery.
Jesus
Call
is the
you.
Most High. We're proud of you.
He's not the
So
most
now
high.
you,
Plus Psalms
so now
8,
you can get out
Psalms
of.
is not even
So
talking
now you
about
can
Christ,
jump
you
out of
liar.
this bum religion
You're a
that
liar.
got you out here
Psalms is
looking
not
like
even
a
talking
bum.
about Christ, you liar.
Got you out here talking like
Psalms
a
is
bum.
not talking about
Now
Christ,
you
you
can
liar.
get into some real theological issues, man.
All right, so
Hey,
yeah,
no, you're a
call
coon.
call
You're a
ya. But
coon.
now we got that out of the way. We know how you feel. Genesis 9:6. You never really dealt with it because the original reason you
Let's go
called.
back to it.
Hold on. The original reason you called was to say how happy you were that Charlie Kirk, and you went out of your way to try to describe it in a graphic way. But I'm not emotional, so that's why I never lost it like you.
Hold on,
You
hold on,
would
hold on.
say
Real quick,
he took
Vocab.
took a bullet in
I
the
just
side of
want
his
you to add
neck.
to it.
But hold on.
I
You
called
kept on saying that.
also to get on logic.
Okay.
Remember, that was one of the second things I said.
All right, but that's not my goal. And so the Charlie Kirk, which is in the title of the show, you said that's one of the things that you said you want to talk about. So you said you were happy, and then what I showed you is that if you believe in Torah, you wouldn't be happy about murder because it's a pre-Mosaic, Noahic it's something that's condemned there in Genesis 9:6. In fact, it's given the highest penalty possible, which is capital punishment. So why, as someone who says you love Torah, would you be happy when God's law is violated?
Okay, because again, when you read "Thou shalt not murder," right? And guess what? That's talking about Israelites murdering each other.
Okay, Genesis
give a
9:6
damn.
though. Genesis 9:6.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
let's stay with Genesis.
Yeah,
let's
let's
stay with-
stay there
let's
because
stay with
that's
that.
what I brought to you specifically because I knew you would try to. I knew you would try to jump over the. You would try to
No.
leapfrog. You would try to leapfrog
I'm
over the
not gonna
Decalogue.
leapfrog none.
I knew you were going to try to
I'ma say the
leapfrog
same
over the
thing.
Decalogue. But listen to this: Genesis 9:6.
not.
Noah comes out of the boat, and
Right.
every person walking the earth is a descendant of Noah and the 8. Right. And so the reason why that's a problem for you is because that would include Tyler Robinson and Charlie Kirk. So Genesis 9:6 says, if you shed the blood of man, your blood shall be shed by man because he's made in the image of God. So why would you, as a Torah keeper, be happy about someone breaking a commandment in Torah?
Because he's an Edomite and God hates him, right? And God commands us Israelites to basically destroy all of them, and he's going to put his wrath in us for us to do that. So,
Okay.
hey, all praise to the Most High
So
again.
is Tyler Robinson, the homosexual who loves a furry transgender boyfriend, is he an Israelite according to your reckoning?
I'm not too familiar with who that is.
Tyler Robinson is someone you would describe as an Edomite. And so Tyler Robinson is the one who murdered Charlie Kirk. So what I'm asking you is if he's not an Israelite, then your celebration doesn't even make sense, even under your reckoning.
No, it does make sense because you have the same nation going against each other, like the scripture says.
Okay, so
All
let's do
praise to
that.
the
Let's
Most
do
High.
that. Let's do that. Call ya. You're going to be a slave master, right? One day, right? You're going to have Edomite slaves, right?
I would hope to.
Yes, okay. So you hope to have Edomite slaves, including babies. So when you have your Edomite slaves, what if two of your white boys get in a fight and one of them kills the other one? This is your property, right? What would you do with the Edomite slave who killed your other white boy who does work for you?
Whatever is necessary at the time.
Okay, what would the law...
fine.
See, this is where we know you're not a lawkeeper. You should have brought up something from Scripture, but instead you brought up something from your own head, which we already know is filled with stress and anxiety. Don't take Tylenol. So check this out. Why didn't you just say, I would apply Genesis 9:6 to him as a descendant of Noah? Why didn't you say that?
Again, because it's an Edomite, so I don't care. That's why I'm not going to say
But
that.
are Edomites descendant of Noah, yes or no?
I don't care. Look,
There
Vocab,
you go.
I can play your game. If I
Wait. When I'm
I don't
bringing
care.
Scripture to bear on top of you, that's not a game. I'm asking you logically and orderly. If they're a descendant of Noah, then the Noahic prescriptions apply. You don't care about them, letting us know you don't care about God or His Word. You just want to have
Not
some
true.
slaves.
Not true. I care.
You
about
literally just said you don't
God's
care when I
law
asked
when
you
it
a
comes
question.
to Israelites.
Okay.
All right.
If God cares, call Yah Israel, and that's why He gave Genesis 9:6. Shouldn't you, as a lover of God, care?
Again, the same God that you're saying caring is the one that's going to tell us to basically put our hands on the Edomites.
Okay.
So again,
But Tyler Robinson is a descendant of Noah, and so is Charlie Kirk. So the Noahic prescription would apply. So you would have to hold them to that.
Edomite. He's still a Edomite.
No, the reason why I gave you the example of two of your white boys being your slaves is because that way you could try to understand in a way that maybe you would actually care about, because then you would understand it's taking away labor from you. But if you're gonna have a plantation of whites, right?
Hey, again, whatever God's will
and
is.
Africans, you got a plantation of Africans right there too.
Whatever God's will is.
Okay, so you got some Africans and you got some white boys, and one of them kills each other. And let's say that was your best worker, the guy who got killed. I think you would care. Because what if they're making Jordans for you or something?
Wow. Hey, that's racist, Vocab. You finally letting it out.
Why would it be racist for white people to make Jordans?
You might as well say, what if they making fried chicken for me? You might as well.
Wait, why would it be racist for white people to make Jordans? Right now, who makes Jordans? It's kids in Asia. I'm just replacing the workers, silly. It doesn't have anything to do with what you would buy. This would be your product, silly.
Again. What people made Jordans popular? Okay, so again, you might as well say.
Notice how you try to avoid the question to ask me about Jordan shoes demographics.
No. All I'm saying is you might as well say, hey, what if he makes the best fried chicken for you? Or
if I was an idiot like you, I guess I would understand it that way. But I'm now, check this out. I was asking you serious questions and trying to give you what are called hypotheticals, which are thought experiments, which what it does is it applies your logic to another situation. You don't seem willing to even think about that. You literally just kept saying you don't care. This shows you're not an intellectually curious or robust man. And you're morally despicable, so we're probably at the end. I'll give you a final word if you want to say something now.
He's a bum.
Well, I'm gonna say the reason I respond the way I did is because what I mentioned that God says He will let us Israelites do with His anger.
But you don't care about what God says, so.
I mean, that's what you say. And the last thing I'm gonna say, hey, Avery, you're just a Uncle Ruckus. You should star in the Boondocks in real life as Uncle Ruckus.
Brother, you got to work on your insults, brother.
You
got to work
on
it.
Now I don't care to be disconnected. I said what I had to say.
It's coming out your mouth. It's trash, man.
God bless.
Vocab might chop this up.
You're a bum. May God save you from this bummery. May God save you from this bummery. May God equip you with a barber. May God equip you with clippers. May God equip you, man, and save you from this bummery.
I'm probably going to see 5 minutes of 5 minutes.
May save you, man.
If you upload this, it might be 5 minutes.
Take care of yourself, big dog.
Right. God bless. God bless you, brother.
The points that I brought out.
God bless. God bless. God bless. Well, I'm glad I got to meet your friends. You got some interesting friends, brother.
Look, man, I don't know where these bums be coming out. They coming out the woodworks, having the confidence to turn the camera on, and that's how you. Chris, baby, you know better than let me. If you know, I'm gonna have a backwards cap on or something, or camera gonna be off if it's that bad. Man. That's tough. But yeah, man, this is what happens when you get theologically confounded, and then the demon just comes out. After he admitted that Jesus was the Most High, he switched up like crazy. It was insane. It was like, this dude is not okay. That's what it was like.
Yeah, that was tough. Shout out to Yondell and Leif and Ryan. God bless all of y'all. I'm glad you jumped on, though. It's funny because you said you don't go to L.A. and you were just in L.A.
Yeah, I mean, I was just in L.A., yeah, man. My wife, she had something going on. She had she was on a panel with other Christians.
Nice.
And Muslims. So we was out there for that. And then I was like, yeah, might as well see if they're going to be there Saturday, the Hebrew Israelites. And they was right there. It was right there. Your name, man.
Oh, yeah, I heard them say you were with me or something like that.
Are you with Vocab? You with Vocab? Lot of this stuff sound familiar, man. You with Vocab? Imagine that. A knowledgeable Christian that's approaching these Hebrew Israelites got I guess it sounds like Vocab to them. That's high praise right there.
Wifey says, babe, I would never let you go out of the house like that. I'll be on YouTube figuring out how to edge you up myself.
Thank you, sweetheart. That's why you the one.
May God equip you with a barber. Well, but I mean, so I don't know. I enjoy or find it helpful to try to ask these guys certain hypotheticals that are within their parameters to see what they would say because it's like, okay, we'll try to take it where you're at, try to take it where you're at, and it's like they still have trouble thinking through it. But I think the Genesis, because he called up and he was really happy about the murder and upset that you weren't happy like he was, and so. I think it's good to bring Genesis 9:6 to bear on him. We didn't start there, but that's where we ended up. But he just can't do it because he said he doesn't care. So.
Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't falling on deaf ears because now I got some now in my repertoire now. So,
yeah, that is a good one though because you can't get away from everyone being descended from Noah.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get away from that, and so that also works with another challenge. Genesis 9 says you can eat whatever's walking around. Like God tells all of humanity you can eat whatever in Genesis 9. And that's in the same place where the prescription against murder is. But, can you tell people real quick, we'll finish up with this, tell people about the video you recently did in L.A., because that's one I really hope people watch. Maybe Dinu or somebody could drop that in the link. Good video. Just tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, so there's some Hebrew Israelites that set up on Hollywood Boulevard, and Bryce Crawford spoke to them before. I got a brother named Elijah spoke to them before. I think it goes by Elijah the Prophet or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he spoke to them, and so it was my turn. And so I walked up on them, and we got into Gentile versus whether or not Gentiles can be saved or not. What type of salvation do the Gentiles get? Are they just going to be servants or slaves in the kingdom, or will they also be ruling and priests unto God in the kingdom? And so we got to hit them with, some really good, powerful verses that every Christian should have in their back pockets, demonstrating, one, that the Gentiles are sworn into the covenant using Deuteronomy 29. They couldn't handle that. And that was a funny exchange. Everybody, if you miss anything, that right there, that exchange, hilarious. That right there was my favorite moment because he had to admit in Deuteronomy 29 that those strangers were from the other nations, were non-Israelites, and then he immediately backtracked. And so I got to hit the rewind on him, and it was just good. It was just really good. So that exchange was awesome. And they ran away from Revelation 5, man. They ran away from it. Didn't touch it. Tried to go in. Kept quoting Jeremiah 12:16 about we supposed to teach them our ways or whatever. And then he just kept spamming that like it was doing something. But yeah, everybody should go watch that. Those arguments, those verses being used, they're not ready for them. They do not know what to do with those verses, man.
Yeah, imagine thinking that every nation, tribe, and tongue means every Israelite, every Israelite, every Israelite. And it's like, I'd say people from all over the world, what other way could he have said it? I'm trying to think. Yeah. I think he made himself clear enough, but they'll take it as, it's all the Israelites. Okay.
Here's another thing. Earlier this week, Vocab, I was scrolling through on TikTok, and there's a Christian on a Hebrew Israelite live. What is it? Whoa!
Oh, he popped back in. I think brother, I'm letting God Logic finish up a point, brother. You pop back in. Your volume is down because didn't really invite you back. But go ahead, God Logic. I'm listening.
Jeez, that was a jump scare. So he's on a Hebrew Israelite live on TikTok, and he's hitting them with Revelation 5. He's hitting them with Revelation 5. And it's like, what are the odds? It was just some days after the video posted, and Christians are catching on because I use these same arguments, with Yawasop. And so Christians are already picking this stuff up. And that's what's awesome to see, glory to God, that they're picking these stuff up and they're using them immediately. They're using them already. So I wanted to get your thoughts real quick because they try to use, in the King James Version, it says, redeemed us out of every tribe and nation, and they try to say us is the Israelites out of the peoples, languages, and tongues and stuff like that.
Which verse? Which verse?
Revelation 5:9.
Oh.
King James, it says
Oh, specifically
redeemed
in the King
us.
James.
Yeah, instead of people, it says us. Everything else says people. When I looked at the Greek, it just says redeemed from every tribe, nation, tongue, and people. Kingdom.
Well, okay. Let's look at the first resource I'm going to pop open is Metzger's textual commentary. So the helpful thing with Metzger's textual commentary is that it hold on, I'm having trouble on my Logos. Let me see, make sure I can get this. What it does is it tells you any places where there are significant variations. Hold on, I'm gonna grab my physical copy. I'm gonna take it because I want to look in the Greek if there's some kind of variant, and that could be what it is. While I do that, okay, Kalya, you have like 2 minutes if you want to say something. You got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, Logic. Just to be fair, I'm not gonna say that coon stuff like that right now. Just to be fair, the elder that you spoke to, no disrespect to him, all praise to the Most High. He's a great elder, been doing this work for a while. But the elder is not familiar with your talking points. Okay, I'm definitely familiar with your talking point. So in Revelation, that was chapter 5, verse what?
I thought you were familiar.
I'm just asking you the verse. Damn, my battery. Oh my gosh. What's the? I hope this doesn't. What verse specifically?
I thought you was familiar with the talking points.
Again, logic, bro. Like
what?
I'm sure, because I'm sure if the elder had asked you, you'd have respond, because you know that he doesn't understand your talking point, so you'd have been happy to repeat it on that mic.
I'm afraid that you do, huh? Yeah.
Well, just what is it, so I could address it.
You're familiar with it, right?
So okay, if I remember correctly, it's Revelation 5 and 9. If I'm remembering correctly. And it says, and they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by the blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. So first of all, who's the us? Why do we skip verses? Why do y'all Christians, whatever you want to call yourself, why do you do that? In verse 8, it tells you that it's referring to the saints.
All right, brother.
So
time's
that's
up.
one thing to know.
All right. I didn't catch a conversation. Well, I
lucky.
didn't catch a conversation, but that was more than 2 minutes. God bless you. Have a great night. All right. So here, let's take a look. So this is a helpful little thing. It's the textual commentary on the Greek New Testament, and what it is Metzger's the scholar who trained Bart Ehrman, and any major variants he has a discussion about.
Okay.
So if there's a major variant, it'll show up. So minor variants may not show up. But what you do is you go to the book, and then you go to that spot, and it doesn't have everything. It only has the places where the major variants are. So I'm going to Revelation 5. Okay, so 5:9. Ta theo. Although the evidence for ta theo is slight, this reading best accounts for the origin of the others wishing to provide ego rosas with a more exactly determined object than is found in the words ek, passes, thules. Some scribes introduced hemos, the words ek, hemos, either before ta theo or after ta theo. Oh, to theo, sorry. Oh, I see, before or after. While others replaced to theo with hemos. Those who made the emendations, however, overlooked the unsuitability of hemos with autus, and the following verse, where indeed the Textus Receptus reads, hemos, but with quite inadequate authority. Okay, so there is a variant that explains the KJV rendering, because when it said at the end, the Textus Receptus reads hemos, it has inadequate authority. So that's the difference. So there is a textual variant in Revelation 5:9 that explains for the difference. So they're relying upon the Textus Receptus there, but they wouldn't know that. They would just see it in the KJV, but the KJV, of course, is relying on the Textus Receptus, but it looks like it's basically the lesser. And so they take it, instead of from every tribe and language and people and nation, the KJV says out of. I don't even know if I've ever seen them like bring that particular one up. You know what I mean? I don't think I've seen him bring that up.
No, I've just when I was just looking over it myself, I was like, huh, I can imagine this being brought up as a rebuttal. You know? So I was just
you've never seen him actually do it though, you're saying?
No, yeah, I've never seen now to my point, oh boy, before he got kicked off, he was raising that same point, that rebuttal.
Oh, has redeemed us to God. Okay, so yeah, that's so Metzger does make note of it, and that's the advantage of this is you get a little discussion. Now the problem is the discussion is kind of technical, and so you like it has, for example, it has a Greek in it and all that. So that's where he got us to God. So that's what it reads. Now, what Metzger is making the point of. You can't have Hamas with autos because the following verse shows you that doesn't work. And so the following verse in the Greek is problematic, and that's the point that he's making there. But yet the KJV does it, but upon slight evidence, as it's called. So let's see what 5:10 says, because 5:10 plays into this. 5:10 says autos, which is the third person pronoun, and that's overwhelmingly supported, but it was replaced in several versions and in some patristic witnesses, and that was followed by the textual text receptus, which is it was replaced by Hamas, which would be where they got it from. So basically, you have some text that would say that, but of course it doesn't. They're not going to know. They're not going to know all that, but I could see them trying to use it. What you're saying, but there is a textual reason why the KJV renders it different. I guess is the main point.
So practically, if they use this objection like, oh, it's us out of every tribe, nation. See, those are the Israelites out of the languages, people. How would you respond to that and expose that?
Well, the problem is it says has redeemed us to God. So it's not saying like has redeemed Israel to God. It's saying us. But then even in the KJV rendering, based upon the Textus Receptus, after it says has redeemed us to God, it says how that came about. So you have to God. So that's a prepositional little phrase there, followed by another prepositional phrase. Prepositions show relationships. So to God is who you redeem to, but how did that happen? Okay, brother, we're done talking, brother. I'm gonna put it.
How's it coming up?
Because the way I have it set up is recurring guests can come up, but I'm gonna fix that, brother. We're good, man. Let's end the discussion there. It's because it's kind of funny because the way I have it is where recurring guests can come if I open up a line for them. But I'm going to go ahead and we're not going to do that anymore because it's kind of funny, right? He pops up there like that. I mean, that's kind of classic in a way. But we're gonna go ahead and fix that. Okay, so the thing is, it's defined basically to us. He's redeemed us to God. Sorry, but how? By the blood. And then it's out of. So the place they're still coming from is still the same. The us is defined by where they come out of. You see what I'm saying? They're taking it, if they would use that argument, they would take it as has redeemed Israel to God by thy blood. But it's saying us. The question is who's the us? Well, the us is defined where we come out of. And so that's important too, because what you see in there is in Revelation 5:9, it's the preposition ek. That's the out of. And so that's what that means. It comes out of. Well, what's it come out of? Every kindred and tongue and people and nation. So it's defining the us. So basically, I guess if I was going to have a discussion with them, I'd say, yeah, but who's the us? They're going to say Israel. But we're going to say, well, no, let the text define the us. The us is defined right afterwards as those who come out of every kindred tongue and people and nation. And one other thing I might bring up is how did the redemption occur? Again, this is even under the KJV rendering. Has redeemed us to God by So that preposition by shows how the redemption occurred. Why is that important? Because it's by thy blood. It's not by their birth. It's by the blood of Christ.
Right.
So the way that they're redeemed is not by their blood as Israelites. That's important to understand as well. How they're redeemed, and then the question, I think it's an interesting question, is like about. Well, see, they have a whole messed up understanding of what even redemption is. So it's so difficult talking to these guys with all these like alternative definitions. You know what I mean? But to
that
me,
makes sense. How
Yeah,
you broke it down, I think, is a straight shot, and it makes sense. I think it's a straight rebuttal. That's good.
yeah, the prepositions kind of tell the story.
Yeah, exactly. So even if you were to grant the King James rendering, you know, you can still break them down. So yeah,
Yes.
I wanted to get your breakdown of that.
And
So
then
that was-
this is technical too, but this is what a Greek New Testament looks like. So the little commentary I read by Metzger, what it is, it's a companion to the Greek New Testament. And so they look similar, but it's two different books. So this is the Greek New Testament itself. And what it does is there's the text here. I know it's not going to really show up in the camera because it's all whited. But there's a line here underneath the Greek text, and underneath here is what's called the critical apparatus. So underneath the critical apparatus, what it actually does is anytime there's a variant that has some significant witnesses to it, witnesses means manuscripts that attest to a certain reading. That's what the context, when they say witnesses in the textual critical world, what they're saying is these manuscripts attest to this particular reading. A reading in this instance means a variant. Well, what the critical apparatus does is once it gives you the verse, so you look at 9, Revelation 5:9 in the Greek New Testament, then you look beneath the line where the critical apparatus is, it actually tells you the major witnesses that give it some play. So it not only includes certain manuscript numbers, but it actually includes even church writers. So Hippolytus, Cyprian, Augustine. So it names some people where that rendering showed up. But again, that's more technical than they would need. Even under that, the prepositions do the work to define the why and the how and the who.
Yeah.
So it's all defined if you follow the prepositions. Even in the English carries along. It's actually even more, I would say, explicit in the Greek than even that. But what were you guys talking about while I was gone? Because I actually didn't hear it. I had to grab the books. I actually didn't hear.
Oh yeah, he was using that objection right there. The same thing that I was bringing up to you before you stepped aside to get the book.
Right.
He brought up saying, yeah, he said, you know, respect to that elder, he wasn't familiar with your talking points, but I am. That's basically what it's
Okay. Well, it's weird
so
that
he admitted the elder dropped the ball.
Yeah, that's good. Implicitly recognizes that. That's what's funny. You know, these guys always. Every camp is the wrong camp. It's like you went to that camp. Every camp is the wrong camp, but some other camp has the sauce. You know, has the answer. And it's like, don't they notice we're the ones traveling around? Like they're not really traveling with us. Like for example, if you want to talk to Hakah, you got to go to Seattle. Like where's he going? Like we're going to these guys in New York City and places like that, like what you did. We got to go just to Seattle, why doesn't he do some traveling and challenge people and talk to people?
Why don't they come out to us? You know? Speaking of, if you wanna do a LA trip, let me know, man.
Oh, yeah, because you could do an LA trip.
Yep.
Want to talk to those Hollywood guys again, or you want to go find this guy?
So there's two camps, I guess, that are on Hollywood. So one of the camps hit me up. They emailed me, or they responded on that YouTube video and said, "Come talk to us." So I was like, "Where y'all at?" He was like, "We on Hollywood and Vine, you know, by the burger spot." That I was like, "Oh, I went to that burger spot, so I know exactly where y'all will be." He was like, "Yeah, we here from 11 to this time, so every Saturday." So I'm like, "All right." So I have to pick a day, but. So if you want to do a LA trip, we can hit both camps the same day. We can hit them up. They're kind of at the upper end of the boulevard, and then we can go to the lower end of the boulevard in the same day.
Hey, if we do that, I feel like we should also. I wonder if there's a place to set up somewhere out there, like where you can set up in Times Square where we can also tell them to come to us, type of thing, you know?
We can figure that out, I think, because they just be setting up. So I'm sure we might have to get there early enough though to get a
Right.
spot, you know.
Right.
Well, I'll try to inquire about that and see what's up, see what I can find out. But,
Awesome.
if we can, I'm down, man. I'm down.
All right. Oh, look, we met our goal for tonight. That's beautiful to hear. What did I say I was going to do if we met the goal? Now I forgot. Do you ever do that where you, we met the goal. Okay, that's good. What are we doing? What was the goal? Let me see here. We're going to,
My streams aren't that sophisticated yet.
Oh, well, come on, you're God Logic. Okay, we're gonna drop another video of me debating GMS London in the rain, because that's what. Remember before we came and saw you when it was raining at Stratford?
Yeah.
The reason why I don't know if you know that, but we were all wet too because we had been standing outside with GMS. They had umbrellas. The Hebrew Israelites had umbrellas, and we're just standing out there with just a little hoodie on. So we were soaked. My Bible was wet. Everything was soaked. That's why we didn't get there.
Those are the same dudes that they were saying, you debated like the elders, man, and they already handled your arguments, man. You coming to us, man? They already answered you, man.
Yeah,
those guys.
except it's more like you debated the top men vocab. Now you come here, but it's gonna be the same thing everywhere. You know, something like that. But yeah,
man, they are no different than the Muslims, man. The Muslims say the same thing to me, man. You debated all the top da'i, the top scholars, and they already answered you. And you come in here like they've already talked to you. Like, man, come on now.
Yeah, it's like it's a real passing the buck, isn't it? You know, it's like it reminds me of I don't know, inspiring philosophy won't like this, but where in regards to evolution, the chemists say that the biologists have the answer, and the biologists say that the cosmologists have the answer, and the cosmologists say, and you start to go around and realize, like, hey, these guys are always saying the answer's in another department, but it doesn't sound like to me there's actually an answer, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm gonna drop so part 2 of Me in the Rain, because you guys gave the super chats, next Monday coming up. So a week from today, look for that video.
Well, I'm excited.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's dope what you did. That is a good idea. Let's set up an LA trip after I get out of this seminary class, or maybe on break. Are you going to go to ETS? Do you do that ever?
IP was just telling me about it, so I haven't done it yet. But
it's pretty cool, and more like YouTube guys have been going year by year. Like it used to just be a couple of YouTube guys, but now you go and they're all there because we're kind of popularizers in a way. So one way to kind of stay connected to that more direct academia, like if you're not currently in seminary or something like that, besides reading the books, is you go to ETS and then you meet them and hear their lectures and get to even ask questions in person. And then we also get to hang out with each other. And a lot of times they'll do an apologetics event. It's kind of like a base level apologetics event at a local church that's also kind of fun to hang out to. So it's everything in a weekend. And there's books too that are also heavily discounted. So it's just a really cool thing. The Evangelical Theological Society meeting this year, it's in Boston. So consider it. I mean, I got to, it's always about scraping money together, but it is a pretty cool thing that a lot of us do go to. I think you would enjoy it. It doesn't have like a lot of places for great content just at the conference itself, unless you ask a guy off to the side a question or something. But sometimes we'll do streams at the hotel or something together, and it's kind of funny because everyone's together. So people are like, "Oh, look at this!" Like everyone's on one stream or whatever. So there are some cool things there. But consider it. Maybe we could work something out.
Okay, when is it?
It's always the week before Thanksgiving in that November space. So not Thanksgiving week, but the week before is when they do it.
Of course.
And it's in Boston in November, so that might be a little chilly.
I know. Okay, yeah, I'll think about it, man, for sure. Yeah, that sounds fun if you guys are doing it.
All right, and then I'm gonna text you later because Hassad and them are hitting me up again and want to know about an update. I'm trying to we'll figure it out. But yeah, they're anxious, I suppose.
Oh, they need to come out to us, man. Come on out here. What's up, man? They can come talk to us face to face. Let's get a burger and let's talk Bible. But yeah,
well, I'm down.
Thanks for having me up here so far, man. This is fun.
Great stuff, man. Keep up the good work. I love seeing you talk to those guys and what you do. And man, the stuff that happened in New York City, that was a major blessing. And I'm so glad. I love the synergy and the movement. And a lot of that is your momentum. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you, Vocab. Keep pouring into me, man. I told you, I'm absorbing everything, man. I'm taking everything in. You know, I'm watching all your vids. I'm taking notes. You know, so.
Well,
yeah.
you have popularized the arguments. That's what's beautiful. Seriously, I love to see it popularized. Like no one has quite the position to be able to popularize it like you. So it is great. Just like what you said earlier about people using the arguments. Once people get a hold of this stuff, they get emboldened because they realize, oh, there's answers. You're gonna see like hundreds of people on the corners. It's gonna be. We're just in the beginning phase, really.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, this is exciting. All right, I love you, man. I'll catch you guys. God bless everybody.
God bless, brother. Have a good night. All right, cooking as usual.